Let's do it. That's it.
Oh my God.
And well, you know what? Welcome to Death Row Records. I'm Tupac on the board,
Don't
mixing board over there, Suge Knight, and
don't do
welcome to Death
what you say,
Row.
man.
Welcome to Death Row. That's it. We about to. Hey man, it's all eyes on me today. It's about to happen. It's about to go all the way down. Right. So, hey, welcome everybody. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. We're getting started on time out of respect for our time and yours and time period. Today is going to be make sure today that you have a pen, pencil, whatever you need is something to write with. I will call on some of you because I don't want to just read it all off myself, so to speak. I want all of you to be able to do that. So I need you, we're not going to put that up on the board. For me, please. But we are going to put something up that I'm going to read from, you're going to read from, but we're going to break it all down. We're doing this in 3 hours because it's going to take a little bit of time to set it all up, but it's really important because I want you to understand a couple things today. I want you to get a couple things today. Some of which is learning how to study, learning how to pay attention to detail, learning how to take some information that seems irrelevant or wondering whether the story is true or whether the people are true. But I want you to learn how to take information that's provided to you and extract any type, form, kind, or amount of truth in it, right? To be able to apply it to your life. Everything we do here is for you to be able to apply it to your life, right? To find the truth in it, to find yourself in it and apply it to your life, right? To see the meaning you can get from something to apply to your life. So it's going to be kind of like the gold rush in a sense where, you're panning for gold a little bit. So you have to filter some things out, that all the rocks in the dirt to get to the gold. So there's going to be some reading we do that seems kind of, it's not absolutely necessary, but I don't want to skip too much because there may be one or two words in each line or paragraph that means something that I want you to understand. And part of that is what I mean when I say I want you to learn how to study. I have a class on that that actually talks about studying in details. And there's a couple of classes that I'm going to roll out that I'm going to let you guys get access to. But I'll talk about that later. But one of the things that I teach in some of the classes I have, one of which is studying, and it's called like studying in details. It's learning how to study, learning how to actually look at information and break it down and see what you can get from it and see what you can see of yourself in it, right? And however much that is or little it is. And then if there's nothing, you move on, right? But learning the skill of that. Most people don't study. They may read, they may go to class, they may do homework, but most people don't actually sit down and spend time enough with something to really not only know what it says, but know what it means. So that's what we're really going to do today. So it's going to take a little while. Like I said, some of it's going to feel like panning for gold, a whole lot of irrelevant things. And some of it will be, but there'll be, like I said, little nuggets in certain parts that we need to catch. And then there'll be some other things where it's just like a big brick of gold. And so that you're really like, okay, all right, I get it. So we're going to do that today. So we're going to start off. So, okay, so remember when I said every time you meet a person, right? Any person you meet, literally you could kind of just turn your back because you're only meeting, the physical body is only the representative of that person. So that's not really who you're meeting. So when I say anytime you meet a person, what are you really meeting? Anybody know? Anybody remember? When you meet a person, what are you really meeting?
Their mind.
Their mind. So when you know the name of a person, that name reflects or represents their mind. Now, in this particular book, right, we are going to take stuff out of this book. The truth is not commercially religious. Everybody makes it that they've made it a whole bunch of different things. That's not what we're here for. I'm not here to polarize anybody. I'm not here to say who you should or shouldn't. That's not my point. I'm just using this particular document today. I use law, health, history. That's why you see me write names on boards, words on boards, and stuff like that to say, what does this really mean? Because I don't care where the truth is. I don't care where it is or how it is or who's telling it, as long as that's what it is. So when you meet a person, you're meeting a mind. When you meet that person's mind, right, they have a name attached to that mind. So this person's name that we're going to study today is Daniel. Daniel. Does anybody know what that name means? It's good to think. You don't have to be right. It's good to think, but you don't have to be right. So guess if you have to, say whatever you think you need to say or whatever. But we got to keep it pushing and keep it moving today. We got to be active. Anybody know what this name means?
Is it protector or protected?
No, but that's good. That's okay. No, but that's okay. Anyone else?
I have a cousin named Daniel.
What? So you're interrupting the studio session now. Coming in, talking with balloons and cake. Nobody want to see all that. I'm in here ambitious as a writer. I don't have time for birthday parties. All right. So anybody else? What does this name mean? Doesn't matter if you're right. Guess anything. All right. The name means judge or God judges or God will judge. That's what the name means. So this person's name means something. There's a reason this person has this life. There's a reason this person has this story. There's a reason for it. And that's one of the things I want you to understand. The reason you have your name, the reason you have your life, they are attached. They're not separate. They are attached. Your name means something to your life, for your life. There's a reason you have it. Right? So this person's name is a reflection of their life, past, present, and future. Right? So we are going to talk about this person today, and we're going to learn about ourselves through this person. We're going to learn about life through this person's story, through this mind. This mind. Everybody has a mind, and we have a name for it called ourselves, whatever that is. Right? So we're going to work on that. We're going to go through that today. Like I said, it may get a little tedious here and there, but there's a reason for all of it. And I want you to understand. All right. So I'll start it off. Right? So when we talk about this thing, I want everybody to take notes. I want everybody to pay attention. And I want everybody to really to pay attention to detail. Everything matters. And I want you to see it so that you can apply it to yourself, so you can understand it. Because we're going to take a sentence or a paragraph or whatever, and we're going to break that down so that you understand, so we understand how to apply this to our life. We can see ourselves in it. We can say, oh, I do that, or I don't do that, or why have I done that, or why whatever else it is, and be able to get something out of today, right? This is important today. All right. So in the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, the word Judah, or the name Judah, means praise. That's what that name means. Came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem and besieged it. Besieged it means took it over, basically. Okay. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he came into the land of Shinar in the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure home of his God. Okay, first paragraph. What is when the new king, basically when the new king came in that first paragraph, right? What happened? What do you notice about that paragraph? And this is what I mean by studying things in life. What do you notice? Anybody have any ideas?
The takeover.
The takeover. But look at the words in the takeover. What changed?
The ruler.
The ruler changed. And so as a result of the ruler changing and the takeover, what words did they use to describe when they took their stuff? Where did they take it? Who did they take it from? Where did they take it? Look at the words they used. That's why we need 3 hours today, because it's literally going to be like this. But once we get rolling, you'll see you'll have a better understanding of not only what I'm talking about, but how to find it for yourself, how to see it for yourself, right? So it says, right? So they took it with part of the vessels, right? And to the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. Why did it say his God? So he took it. So one person took something from someone else and took it into the house of his God. So they're essentially saying that they have different ones, that they're believing in different ones, that what they call God is different. What he calls or she calls or what a person calls God is different than what another person calls. That's why they use possessive. That's why they said brought it into the house of his God. And they took all the takeover and they took all their stuff. They took it from one God and gave it and took it to another God. Oh, well, I'm taking from you, and now I'm going to take this into the house of my God. So they're changing gods now. And this is going to be a familiar theme coming through, and you're going to start to realize certain things. So they're changing possessions, and they're changing who's now the possessor, whose God has what now. Right? Okay, so and the king spoke unto, Aphanaz, the master of the eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel and of the king's seed and of the princess, right? Okay, volunteer. Who's going to read line 4? I need somebody to read line 4 quick. I don't know if they can see. You want to blow it up? Can you blow it up? I don't know if it can get bigger. I don't know.
All right, look, I'll read it.
Okay.
Children in whom was no blemish, but well favored, and a skillful all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge, and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, in whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans.
Okay. So what type of people were these now that they're getting? What type of people are these now? They're saying, bring some people. What kind of people are they saying these are?
Well-informed people.
Say it again.
I mean, they're using well-informed people that, have understanding, have knowledge, skills, and ability, have favor. And
yeah, but what words do we use today? I want you guys to get this so that you can use it today. I want you to see yourself in this. I want you to see this, right? What words would you use today? Would you use those words today? If somebody got into this program, they'd be called like an honor student.
Right.
Right? There's no blemish, right? They're well favored. They're skillful and wisdom. They've shown some ability. They've shown some talent. Does that make sense? Right? So I want you to know, it's important for you to know who these people are right now that they're getting, right? What group Daniel is with, because Daniel is in this group. So it's like now they're forming an all-star team. Now they're sitting here saying, okay, let's get the best of the best of these kids in this area. So this is like your GATE program, your gifted and talented program, right? Your honors program. That's what this is, right? They're getting the best of the best. That's important to understand, right? So make sure you're kind of writing some of these characteristics down, right? They're getting the best of the best. They're not just getting anyone. They're not just picking everybody and everybody's equal. No, they're already starting off with the cream on the top, right? They're picking Kobe, Jordan, LeBron. They're picking they're picking everybody, so to speak. They're picking the NBA top 75. That's what they're picking. I want you to learn how to take this information and be able to put it in today's terms so that you can see yourself in it and understand it and apply it, right? Because we're not worried about whether the story is true. We're concerned with the truth of the story. We're concerned with what can we take out of here and apply to our lives in 2023. Right? Okay. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drank. to nourish them for nourishing them for 3 years, that at the end thereof, they might be able to stand before the king. Right? So volunteer. So in that sentence, what's happening? What is this? What's happening now?
People ate.
Okay. Yeah.
She's
Anybody
taking,
else?
he's taking care of them and making sure they're okay.
Oh, yes. Why is he doing that?
He's doing that because they are of value to him, and he's trying to accomplish something, and he realizes that he can use them to accomplish his agenda in the future.
So when some of you want to know, right? When some of you want to know how to get promoted, when some of you want to know how to get a raise, some of you have to just be of more value. Your value sucks. You want more money than you're actually valuable. He didn't take care of them because he loved them. He didn't even know them. He took care of them because at the sentence in the 4th chapter, the 4th sentence that Marcus read, when he said, these are people with no blemish. These people are well favored. These people are skilled in wisdom and knowledge. They had some potential that was shown. They had to be something just to get to this point. How many times do we wait, be like, well, I'm gonna do my best when I get the job I like, or I'm gonna show up on time when I get paid what I want, right? A lot of times somebody doesn't have to care for you or love you. If they're not your parents, they ain't obligated to do that. And you just met your spouse half of the way through your life, a third of the way through your life. They didn't raise you, right? So they're the next closest people to your parents at that point. So your parents are the only ones that are just obligated to do it, so to speak. Everybody else got choices. So he didn't take care of them and give him the food from his table and things like that just because he liked them. It's because he saw value in them. Like Kari said, they were valuable, but he didn't have to give them a test before they knew that. Oh, that wasn't Kari? Who was that?
It says iPhone. Was that John or Joe?
John. Oh, that was John. Oh, I see Kari. Then I thought, what was that? It's probably.
That sounded like John or Joe.
I don't know one of them. But anyway, so the point is, sorry for the yeah, I don't know. Whoever it was, that was right. So I want you to, this is what I mean by taking all these things down and really seeing something and understanding something. So people don't have to love you or like you in order to see value in you, but they can't see something you don't present. And you can't wait to present it for them to then see value, and it doesn't work like that. So that is why that happened, because they had meaning to him, right? Okay, so then they said what? Now among them were the children of Judah, the children of praise, right? That's what Judah means, praise. Daniel and his 3 homies, basically, right? Now, Veronica, you can read number 7.
Unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names, for he gave unto Daniel the name of.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Just
yeah. And to the Hannah.
Yeah, Shadrach,
and to the
Meshach is the last one.
Yeah. To the Azariah of Abednego. It's not Paco, Tito, and all the names I'm used to. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, right. Okay. So what happened here? What happened here?
They gave them names.
When you take possession of something, you change the name. It's yours now. When you take possession of something, you call it what you want. You can call your house a boat if you want to. When you name your kids, you do it. When you own something, so to speak, when you are the responsible party, you can call it whatever you want. Right? So they changed the name because now he's saying you're on my insurance plan. You're under my roof now. Right? So a lot of times people, when you start working for somebody, they're going to want you to be what they want. And you have to start figuring out, okay, how can I be what I want while I'm under someone else's roof, while I'm on someone else's plan? How can I be my greatest while I'm still under someone else in the time? And this is part of for the time being. And this is part of what you're going to see in this story. Like I said, it's going to be mining for gold for a little bit, but I want you to start getting in the habit of learning how to break things down and start to see things. Okay, Veronica, the next one.
But Daniel proposed in his heart that he would not defile himself to the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore, he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. I don't know what defile means. Defile
means to debase. It means to like mess yourself up, to dirty yourself, to
tarnish.
Say it again.
Like to tarnish something.
Well, it means defile. Yeah, but it means really to play yourself, to sell yourself out. Really, right? It means to tear yourself down, right?
Like degrade.
Say it again. Degrade. Kind of, yeah. To dirty yourself. Like he didn't want to be a part of that plan. He didn't want to get involved in that movement, right? But so now think about what he said there. So the king is offering them some food now. They got to eat, because for this time they got to eat, right? So, but Daniel said, so in this paragraph, what did Daniel do?
Did he turn it down?
Okay. He turned it down. So, right? So then, okay, so now the next sentence, one more for you, Veronica. Next sentence.
Now God has brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs.
So the sentence before, right? He's offered something to eat, basically the meal plan, right?
He has said in the chat, sounds like Daniel is vegan.
Right? But it's almost like that in a sense of in mind. So remember, Daniel is a mind. So every mind has a set of beliefs, actions, theories, the way they move. That is who you're meeting, is a mind, right? You're not meeting the body. The body is just the vehicle of the mind. So you're meeting a mind. So when one person's mind says, I want you to do this, Daniel's mind said, I don't roll like that, right? So then after that, he said, well, can I not do that? Then he said, okay, well, now God had brought Daniel into the favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. So when he asked the eunuch for something, he got favor that he couldn't get from the eunuch. He asked the eunuch a question, but the favor didn't come from himself. In this sentence, it came from who?
God.
From God. Now we're going to get to that word later, but understand. So we're understanding this in this sentence, right? And in this story this far, right? Where his favor came from. Because earlier, remember when everybody was robbing everybody to take over? There was one God, then taking another God into something else. Now Daniel has his own God, obviously, right? So you have all these gods going on, right? And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But I want you to understand that he decided when something was presented to him, how he wanted to handle himself. When people come to your life and offer you stuff or tell you, you have to move this way, you have to know who you are to decide if that's best for you. And sometimes what isn't best for you, you don't want to do or you can't do, but you feel like, well, I'm not sure how I can get over it, around it, or past it. Well, the next sentence just said, well, God did something. So as we go on in the story, we'll see why things happen. So remember that. Write that down. Now, God had brought Daniel into favor. Write that down. As important as the story goes on, because you want to know not only what happens, to who it happens, why it happens, so you can get a better understanding of something, right? Okay. Who's next? Who wants to read number 10? Come on, we got a lot to go through, so we got to keep going.
Okay, Lucky, I'll go.
All right, let's do it.
And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse likening than he the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make the endanger. Wait a minute. Then shall he make me endanger my head to the king.
Yep. So what is that paragraph saying?
In the chat, the kid put head shall rule.
Head shall roll. Essentially, head shall roll. Essentially, hey, if I don't do this, if I don't give you this food I'm supposed to give you, I'm gonna get in trouble. Essentially, I'm gonna get in trouble, right? Then said Daniel, right? He said, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over. Wait. Then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, so and so, all them, right? He said, okay. So Daniel said back to him, prove your servants. And I beseech you, it means I ask you. Prove your servants, I ask you. Give us 10 days and let them give us let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. Pulse is basically vegetables. So he's saying, hey, I understand what you're saying. Just give us 10 days, give us a 10-day trial period. Right? We got all these subscriptions that we got all kind of trial periods on. Those are the best things of all time. Try to get them done within the trial time for free. Right? That is essentially what's happening. Hey, I don't want to eat this. Give me 10 days. I don't want to roll like that. Give me 10 days and I'll prove it to you. Right? Then the next one, right? Who wants to read the next one? He's saying, I want to do this. He's saying, I don't want to do that. Give me 10 days to prove to you that I can go without that. Then what's the next one?
Yeah, put in the chat. Pulse is grain.
Okay.
I'll read the next one. Then let our countenance be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that eat of the portion of the king's meat, and as thou seest deal with thy servants.
Right. Right. So essentially it's saying, right, then see what we look like. See what we look like. And see what the people that you gave the king's food look like. And then as a result, deal with us then. If we can't pull it off, we'll do what you say. So basically this option and opportunity, right, is coming with the favor of God. It's coming with the favor. So Daniel says, I know who I am, so I'm going to stay in my lane. I know where my help comes from. But you're asking me to do something because now I'm under your watch. So now I'm saying, well, I'd rather stay in my lane while I'm under your watch, but I need favor. So God steps in and grants favor. And then says, okay, favor, I have this opportunity. Let me try to stay true to myself while I'm under your roof. But I need favor to do that. I couldn't get that. God gave it. So now he's saying, okay, give us 2 days. And after that, let's see what happens. Right? Okay. Who wants to read the next one? The next one or two, next two.
And so he consented to them in this matter and proved them 10 days. And at the end of the 10 days, their countenance appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat.
Good. Oh, great to see you, Ikea. Will you read one more, the next one?
Okay. Thus Melzar took the portion of their meat and wine that they should drink and gave them pulse.
So now essentially what happened? They did their experiment, they did their subscription trial, and what happened?
They came out better.
And why was that? They came out better. Why did they come out better? Again?
They were true to themselves. They were true to themselves.
They were true to themselves. They were true to themselves. The whole reason it started was because Daniel said, I don't want to defile myself. I don't want to do that. I understand what you're saying. I respect what you're saying, but I don't want to do that. I want to stay true to myself. Right? And God helped Daniel stay true to himself. We'll get into that God later, but I want you to understand how things are working here. And because Daniel and them stay true to themselves, look at how they look better than anyone else who just did whatever they're told, because they don't have a standard. They just are living. They're just grinding. They're just showing up to be here. They don't have a standard, like we talked about before this call, right? A little bit. As people will, as little as they can to try to get as much as they can. People will now on Zoom go to interview in a sweatsuit, right? Because they don't have their own standard. And now since nobody looks down on it so much because it's so common, then they're like, people aren't really doing they don't have a standard, so they just do what they're allowed to and get away with. But you don't realize that what people allow you to do and get away with is only because they have a desired outcome for you, but that may not be your own. So if you lower your own standards, you may lower it so low that you may never reach your own goals. Right? This is what I mean by being able to take this stuff out. That's why we're going by it kind of so painstakingly. I want you to see what happens when you stay in your lane. When you say, I have a standard for myself. I know who I am and what I am. And so there's a power in me, right, that allows me to move this way, that will intervene on my behalf because I'm true to myself, because I'm not wavering every time someone comes or something comes or comes with a new bright idea and everything else. Right? So that's very important. Okay. Let's see. All right. So I'll read the next one. Right? Now, at the end of the days that the king had said he should bring them in, the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king communed with them, right? Sat with them. And among them, all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king. So basically, like, now how long was this? How long was this time period? Remember, we read it back before. How long was it?
On the third reign.
The third year. In year 3, right? They're going to be here for 3 years. This is what I mean, paying attention to detail, right? How long was this? Where are they? What are they doing? In order for you to understand not the story, but the truth of the story. We don't care if these people are real right now. We don't care if this is true. We only care about the truth that we're extracting and extrapolating out of the story, right? So 3 years later, they sit down with the king. And 3 years later, now remember at the very beginning, they picked the best of the best. This was the honors program, right? This was the gifted and talented program. This was AP classes, right? This was the best of the best that they took from the beginning. And they decided not to defile themselves. They decided they were going to stay in their lane. And remember, there's already a couple gods already. Daniel got one. The guy who took the guy's stuff got one. The guy whose stuff got taken got one. So we have multiple gods already floating around. But the one Daniel supposedly is serving has them, right, at the end when the king sat down with them all, right? And they said there was none found like those 4. None. And it started before they were called. It remained when they were called and they decided not to defile themselves. And then it was proven afterward. So like 1 + 1 is 2 equals 2. The outcome is everything that came before it. Right? So when we have life, the outcome, the physical world is everything that's come before it. Our thoughts, our feelings, our self-concept, what we believe ourselves to be, all those things are what are producing the outcomes we're seeing in our life. Your call will not. Right? So that's why we're going through this the way we're going through it, because I want you to understand it. Right? Okay. Let's see. Who wants to read verse 20? 2021, last 2. Doesn't matter, anybody, somebody, so we can keep it moving.
And in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired them, he found them 10 times better
Reign
than
of Nebuchadnezzar to King Cyrus
that were in his realm.
Last one.
And Daniel continued even though the first year of King Cyrus. So
in verse 20, right? In verse 20, now they're telling you what those 4 are like. And what are they like? Well, essentially, what would you call them? In today's words, like what would they, if that were true, what would we say about them? What would we call them? Like, look how they're described, right? So remember, these are the best of the best from the beginning. Now they're coming down to the end after 3 years. Now this is how they are described amongst the best of the best. They're described this way. So who are they then? What would you call them?
The elite.
Essentially, the all-stars, the all-star team, the elite, these are the best of the best. From the beginning, these were the best. These are the best people they could find. Now these, like I just heard, these are the elite because these are the best of the best of the best, essentially. So how did they get there? Right? They decided not to defile themselves. How did they get there? They said, test it and prove that we can basically live this way, right? They knew who they were. They stood up for themselves. They said, this is how we move, even under your banner. This is how we're going to move. We have our own standard. We have our, we know.
Hey. No, come on in.
Right? So this is important to understand that look at what they got for that. This is what I want you to understand. Look what they got for that. Look what they got for that. They are now the all-stars, the best of the best. Right? Okay, go to the next chapter. Yeah, that one. Fine. So now it starts getting a little real now, right? Okay, so I'll start it off. And the second year of the reign of the king, basically, he dreamed dreams where his spirit was troubled, where basically he was bothered now. Now he's having some issues, and his sleep broke from him. It means basically he couldn't sleep. So the king commanded to call the magicians and the astrologers and the sorcerers and the Chaldeans to show the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream, like when I realized what was going on. And they said, then the Chaldeans, right, some of the magicians and astrologers, like all that whole group, said, okay, tell us the dream, and we'll tell you what it means. And the king said to the Chaldeans, this thing is gone from me. This thing is gone from me if you will not make known unto me the dream, right? If you don't tell me what it is, I'm not going to tell you. If you don't tell me what it is, I want you to tell me what it is. He said, with the interpretation thereof. He said, if you don't do this, you'll be cut in pieces, and your houses will be made a dunghill. Your stuff will just be, beat up, right? He said, but if you show me the dream and the interpretation thereof, you'll receive from me gifts and rewards and honor, and and if you show me the dream and the interpretation thereof. And then they said, what? In 7, they answered and said, tell us what it is you're talking about, essentially. Tell us what you're talking about, and we'll tell you what it means. And the king answered and said, the king answered and said, I know of certainty. I know for sure that you're trying to buy time to see, to basically just try to see if you can manipulate the information out of me and buy yourself some time. Now, a couple things here. Number one, if he had this problem and he called these people who were supposed to know the answer, why is he so distrusting of them to just tell them the truth, to just tell them the dream? Why does he, these are people who are supposed to have the answer. So why doesn't he just tell them what they want to know so they can tell them the answer? Why is he doing that? He's saying, no, I'm not going to tell you the dream at all, because then you'll just basically make up something. I know it. But if that's what you know, then why do you have these people around you anyway? Why do you have all these people around you anyway, and you can't get any help from them, or you don't trust them? How many people in our life do we have people around that we can't get any help from, don't trust, and yet we're out here asking them for answers that they don't have? Just in the way you ask them the question, they don't have it. When you ask them for something, they don't have it. And yet you have them all in your inner circle, and he's the king. So all these people are essentially living in his kingdom and essentially on his dime. How many people are living in our lives on our dime in our kingdom that can't do anything for us or even with us? But yet when we got a problem, we are ignorant enough to go to them. But smart enough to know they don't know the answer anyway, like him. He knows they don't know the answer. So he's saying, prove it to me that you know. But why do they have to prove something if you gave them these titles or you gave them this place in your kingdom? Why do you have these people in your life, in your kingdom, that can't do anything for you? that you can't ask him for a favor or a question or to get some help or some support. You already don't trust him enough to do that, and yet you're sponsoring, whether it's with your time or your dime. Right? So then he said, I'm just kind of speeding it up a little bit because I want to get, to the end, but I'm trying not to do it too much, because part of it is I want you guys to learn how to do that. Right? So I want somebody to read number 10. I want somebody to read paragraph number 10.
But the Chaldeans answered before the king and said, there is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore, there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asks such things of any magician, astrologer, or Chaldean.
So they basically said, what is that? What did they just say? What does that mean? What did they just say?
What does show mean?
Show.
Show me.
Show.
What does show me?
That can show you, that can tell you.
Oh. Like show?
Yeah, like there's nobody that can.
Oh.
Yeah, like yes. Yes.
I just saw Kari's comment in the chat. I keep one hater in my circle just for that reason. I got to go find out what may be wrong with my ideas because they always have something negative to point out.
I mean, okay. So just like that, they always have something negative to point out. Well, when you go and you're asking all these people, the Chaldeans stood there before the king, and they said what? They said there is not a king, a ruler, or any person, or a magician, astrologer, or Chaldean that can help you. So a hater or an ignorant person can't help you. When you ask them a question, there's no value for them being there. They can't help you. Right? They'll never be able to provide that value. They just said there's not a man on the earth that can do what you're asking. There's not one. And you're asking this of us, but it's like, well, if I knew the answer just as a regular human, let's just say, then I wouldn't be asking you. But I'm asking you because you guys said you're different. You said you're astrologers. You said you can look in the stars. You got magic, abracadabra. You got all kind of things. You're supposed to have that sauce when I need it. You're supposed to be on here ready to help me. And they said, there's not only can none of us help you, but there's no one else on the earth that can help you. So then at some point in your sane mind, what would you say? What do I need you for then? Why am I taking care of you? Why am I spending my time with you then? Right? But everything is funny and everything is cool as long as it's cool. But when it goes down, you better start figuring out who's around. You got to figure out who's around when it's good so that you know who's going to be around when it goes down. Stop sponsoring people and hanging out with people and spending a whole bunch of time with people who can't help you. I don't mean in a usury form. I don't mean use people. I'm saying who don't add value to your life, who can't give you help when you need it, support, good advice, perspective, who can't stand you up, straighten you up and say, hold on a minute, let's think about this differently. We're hanging around a whole bunch of people who can't do anything. And we don't think about that when the times are good. But when it goes down, then we start acting like they're supposed to be some kind of magic man, some kind of sister sorcery. They're supposed to, and you don't realize until then that they're not. But by that time, it's too late. So now he basically wants to kill everybody, right? So then, right, the next thing he says is, and it is a rare thing that the king requires. And there's no other that can show it before the king, except the gods, whose dwelling is not in the flesh. So all these smart people and all these wise people said, the only person or people that can tell you are gods. So just remember, okay, so that's one of those things like, okay, if you say that, remember what you said. There's no one that can show you. You're asking us a rare thing. It's like, well, I'm asking you to do your job. You're supposed to know all this stuff. You're supposed to be Miss Cleo. I done called in on the line and you said, you know what was happening. But now I ask you this question, you don't know, right? So they said, so the only person that could tell you are the gods. Okay, so for this case, the king was very angry and very furious and commanded commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. So you're a wise man and you're about to die. How wise are you? You're not even wise enough to save your own life. Forget anybody else's, right? You're about to die. All of you, not just one of you, all of you. So one of you can't even save your own life, and all of you collectively can't save your own life or anyone else's, and yet you're labeled wise. So a lot of people in life that we label wise may not actually be that. A lot of people that we're putting that burden or expectation or assumption on may not actually be that. And it's up to us to be able to decipher and distinguish that actually from the title given to the actual ability displayed. Right? So then they said, then they said, and the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain. And they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to the Antioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. And he answered and said to the Antioch, the king's captain, why is the king's decree so hasty? The Antioch made the thing known to Daniel, right? So basically now, but when you go back up a little bit, when the first thing Daniel said was, he said, when they went to Daniel, Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom. Daniel's mind is different than everybody else's. He answered with counsel and wisdom. Right? He answered with a level of awareness that everybody else just panicked and said, nobody else can do this. What are you talking about? When he came to Daniel to get the same fate that everybody else was going to get, everybody else panicked and said, nobody on earth can do it. Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom. That's a different mind. There are different, Daniel's name means God judges. God will judge. Daniel's whole story is basically that in offensive and defensive forms, so to speak, where he's doing something or something's being done. But it's showing the power of his mind, of what he's perceiving himself to be, right? That's when you meet a person, you're meeting a mind. Daniel's mind is different than everyone else's. Even though he was getting ready to suffer the same fate, he answered with counsel and wisdom. Everybody else said, what are you talking about? Why are you asking this? Nobody's ever asked something this hard. What's the problem? And Daniel said, okay, well, hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. What? Just goes to show you another thing. Oh, it's funny until the king is coming. Everybody's smart till the king is coming for you. Everybody's funny till the bills come for you. Everybody's funny until recession comes. Everybody's funny until everybody's having a good time and everybody's everything until something really happens. Then you start to really see who's who and what's what. You start to see who's thinking and who's not, who's capable of thought and who's not, who's been thinking and who hasn't. Right? Daniel in this whole story hasn't turned into someone new. He was picked to be in this group. Then he said, I won't defile myself. And then he stood out in that group. And then at the end of 3 years, he stood out amongst all of them. They were found 10 times better. Right? Daniel's always been this way. Right? That mind has always performed at this level. This is not anything new. What you're seeing with all these Chaldeans and astrologers and magicians and everything else is, yeah, you got a couple tricks and that sounds good, looks good, until it's not. The king is coming. Right? Life is coming. And all of us have to make sure that we're in the right state of mind to deal with it properly, so that you don't just throw up your hands and say, no one can do it. So, okay, no one can do it. So we all gonna die now. That's what we're saying. Is that what's gonna get up? Well, he did it too. That old elementary thing where everybody's now thrown into the same bucket because nobody wants to stand on their own 2 feet until or unless there's a reward. Right? No, when the king is coming, somebody around has to be able to stand up and know something. So he said, he answered with counsel and wisdom, right? And so he said, why are we doing this and things like that. So then we go down to verse, what is that right there? The next one. Yeah. So Daniel told him, let us know what he talked about. Then Daniel went in and asked of the king that he would give him time and that he would show the king the interpretation. So he went to the king and said, hey man, just give me some time. Give me a minute. Then Daniel went to his house and made the thing known to his 3 friends. And then go ahead to the next one. and they would desire the mercies of God of heaven, concerning the secret, that Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. So that he didn't even consider himself. They didn't even consider themselves wise men. They didn't want to perish with them. That's not necessarily, that's not what they were described as, because they said they were found 10 times smarter than everybody, right? 10 times more capable than everyone. So they didn't consider themselves wise men. They just didn't want to die with them. But they said, hold on. So then they said, so then what did he do? He went to his friends. This is what I meant earlier. How many of us have friends that we can go to when something happens, that can give us wisdom and counsel, that actually think the way we think? Not talking about the same type of thought, but on the same level of thought. That could say, hold on, girl, wait a minute, let's think about this. Or hold up, man, let's think about it. Let's put our heads together. Let's put our heads together and see what we can figure out here. Because all these other people, they've already given up the ghost. They're just sitting here like, man, well, I don't really know. Hey, why he asked me that? I don't know why. He shouldn't be asking. I mean, that's hard, ain't it? Did you know? No, I didn't know either. Man, the king tripping. What's that going to do? You're going to die. Right? When life comes and all this stuff happens, complaining about the Republicans, complaining about it's not that serious, complaining about why is there gas so high, complaining about, look, you're just going to die. That's not going to work. Right? To be able to go to somebody around you in your circle or somewhere near it and be able to come together and reason, right? And say, how can we figure this out so we can stay alive? That's important. Start to realize that a whole bunch of us are hanging around a whole bunch of people we can't reason with, talk to, do anything with, and we're going to die just like them. All the wise men, all these astrologers, magicians, all of them are having a good time a chapter ago. But now the king is coming. And nobody can, so there ain't enough abracadabra, there ain't enough black hats and rabbits coming out. There ain't nothing happening to save you from this. Right? So then Daniel said, okay, well, let me go ask my friends. Right? Then, right, so that they wouldn't perish. Next sentence. Right? 19. Because they basically went and they went into the house and they all talked it over essentially. Then it said, then the secret was revealed to Daniel in a night vision. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven. So the secret was revealed to Daniel. And Daniel did what? What did Daniel do after that? Anybody? There's something there I want you to see.
He
Bless
gave
God of
thanks.
heaven.
Say it again.
He gave thanks
To who?
to where he believed the answer came from.
Yeah, that's the end part. But what does it say in the book? What does it say right there in that sentence?
He blessed the God of heaven.
Of heaven. That's important. Because it's telling you why did they say God of heaven? There's been 58 gods in here so far. We ain't even got through all the 2 chapters. It's telling you that there's different ones that people are ascribing to. It's telling you everybody's not talking about the same thing when they're talking about God. We're just using that word. Everybody's not talking about the same thing. And guess what? That's why everybody's getting different results. Some are getting results, some are not. Most are not so far. The only ones so far that have actually had their stuff working is Daniel and his homies. And it seems like they're serving one that's different than everyone else's. They're the only ones getting the answers. Everybody else is about to die, right? Everybody else, they look 10 times better than them. They're found wiser at the end. They're all serving. That's why I'm saying, who did he think? It wasn't just like, oh, but a God of heaven, because they are distinguishing that from the other gods they've mentioned before. Because everybody has one. The king has one. The astrologers and wise men and everybody else have their own. But they said there's no man on earth that could tell you except the gods, and they don't walk with people on the earth. So then how in the heck did Daniel get the answer? He must have a different one. There must be something different about what he's doing or who he's talking to. Something's got to be different. Right? So this is going to be a common theme. This is a theme that goes on and on and on, right? That everybody that mentions the name God or everybody that mentions certain just things in life, everybody's not always talking about the same thing, even though they're using the same word. Everybody doesn't always have the same concept of things, the same meaning of things. You're going to start to realize just in this story alone that there are so many different gods that people make up to everything. That people end up making gods out of everything. And then they wonder why they can't get answers to anything. That's why I said to who, because they're telling you that there's this one and it's different from the other, right? So we want to figure out what that is. Okay. So then he said, okay, Daniel answered and said, blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. So that means the wisdom and might that are his are different. Then this must be a different God than everyone else, because this God has wisdom and might and gave the answer to Daniel. Those other people who are about to die must not know this one, because otherwise they would have had the answer and they wouldn't be their head wouldn't be on the chopping block, right? They're distinguishing two different things. Well, there's more than two, obviously, but at least between the magicians and all of them who are about to die and Daniel's crew, who's saving themselves and everyone else from death, essentially. So he said, basically, praise be, blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. So they're saying, whomever I'm talking to, thank you. This is the person I'm getting answers from. Whatever you guys are talking about, you can go ahead with that. You can keep that. That ain't helping you or anybody. So he said, and he changed the times and the seasons. He moves kings and sets up kings. He removes kings and sets up kings, right? He gives wisdom unto the wise and knowledge to them that know understanding. So if he gives wisdom to the wise and the wise men didn't know, then maybe they weren't that wise. Or maybe they're talking about, they're literally worshiping different things. We have to figure out who and what we are worshiping in life, because everything ain't the same. The morals of some of this story is everything is not the same, right? Because from the outcomes, you can tell the wise men didn't have any wisdom. But he said, well, the God I'm serving essentially, or I'm praying to essentially, gives wisdom to the wise. So if the wise men didn't have it, then they weren't obviously talking to the same person, right? He said he receives the deep and secret things. Basically, he reveals it. He knows that he reveals the secret things, right? He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells with him, right? I thank you and I praise you, O God of my fathers, who have given me wisdom and might. So he's saying, this is where I get my wisdom from, this person, this thing that I'm praying to, whatever that is at this moment. We're just saying, oh, he's going in this bucket. He's going in this well. He's somewhere else. He's talking to something or somewhere, or he's somewhere else than these other people. That he's getting answers they're not getting, right? And he said, and has made known unto me now what we have desired of you. For you made known unto us now the king's matter, right? So therefore Daniel went to the king, and the king had ordained the wise men of Babylon, right? To destroy the wise men of Babylon, right? And he went and said to him, destroy not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will show him the king's interpretation. So you know what, man? Just give him a break, man. Don't do it. It's okay. They can't help themselves. They can't do anything with themselves. Just let them go. I'll tell you what it is. I have the answer. So then the next sentence, right? Then Antioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, hurriedly, like he rushed him in there and said unto him, I have found a man in the captives of Judah that will make known unto you the king's interpretation. Then the king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, right, when he was renamed, he said, are you able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen and the interpretation thereof? So now he knows of Daniel, but he doesn't know Daniel, because he's not one of the wise men. He's not one of the astrologers. He's not one of the in crowd. He's not one of the social media influencers. But seems to me he's about to get pretty famous, because if he can say either everybody's dead and nobody will know, or if everybody's alive, it's because of him and his friends who decided to ask their God for something. Right? So what everybody else, when you think you have to be famous, you think you have to be in the in crowd, you think you have to be all these other things, all those people in there, it's showing you all those people who are in the in crowd couldn't help themselves. They couldn't do anything. Right? It's only your mind and its constitution, the things it's made up of, is the only thing that's going to save you. Everybody's running for the hills when the problem is too deep, when the water gets too high. Right? And so he brought him in and he said, okay, 27. So Daniel answered, right? Daniel answered in the presence of the king. And he said that, and he told the king the secret which the king demanded, that the wise men couldn't answer, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers, they couldn't show it to the king. So all those people couldn't do anything. And he said, I got you, I'll answer. I got it. They couldn't do anything. Right? So then he said, but there is a God in heaven that reveals secrets and makes known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the later days. Your dream and the visions of your head upon your bed are these. So he's saying there's a God in heaven. So remember, Kari, when I said, well, what God is he talking about? Now he's telling you again, there's a God. This is the one I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the ones they're talking about. I'm not talking about the ones that everybody else, the other king had, and the other king had, and the wise men, whoever they have. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying specifically this one. I'm talking about this person. This is the person who can give you the answers. All the other people don't have any answers for you. Right? So all those other people worshiping a whole bunch of things that couldn't help them, we have to be mindful of that in our own lives. We have to figure out, man, don't worship anything that can't help you. Don't pray to something that can't answer. And I don't mean the old religious form of it. I'm saying, what thoughts are you having in your mind? What are you believing to be true? What is your Daniel mind? What is your constitution? What boundaries do you have? What things do you say that I will not defile myself with? What are you made up of? Because when things happen, you will find out very quickly. And one of the things you'll find out very quickly is a lot of other people's constitutions, mentalities, and gods, the things that they worship and believe in, can't help them. Can't help them. Right? When a couple summers out here, when there are fires in California, like every 2 days, and you saw these $3 or $4 million homes, boy, just going up in smoke like it was a piece of paper. Couldn't help it. Your wealth didn't help. Your good view of the ocean didn't help. What you did for a living didn't help. How many social media followers didn't help. Right? There's things that come in life, and you better figure out what you're made of and who you're praying to. Meaning what it is you're putting your faith in, your belief in, your direction in, what your mind is made up of. So many people defile themselves that they go over here to be in, and then they're going to be in with the people about to get their head cut off. They're going to be with the people who get their head cut off. Daniel said, I will not defile myself with that. Give me some of this and that and give me 10 days. I don't want to be like them, because if he would have been like them to fit in, to get in, to go along, his head would have been chopped off too. Don't forget that. Rewind the story. Look at the stakes. It's all fun until the king comes. It's all fun until the king is coming and nobody got an answer. Right? So that is why this is important. Right? So then he says, okay, and so he goes into the whole story. I'm not gonna I'll go right here to 30. But he said, but as for me, the secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known their interpretation to the king, and that you might know the thoughts of your heart. So he's saying, it's not that I'm just a special person, that I know everything more than everyone else, but I just am who I am because of who I am in my mind and what I worship. And I'm doing it, and this wisdom is coming through me to spare all these people over here. Right? I'm not worried about myself. I already got the answer, but I'm giving you the answer for all of them. Right? So then he goes into the whole thing. I'm not going to, get into it. We can go down, but because I was going to go through it, but time goes so fast. I want to kind of get to some other parts, but what I'm trying to do is show you how to, when you're looking at information, show you how to pull out who's doing what, why are they doing it, where do they come from, who do they come from, how long, to extract the details out of something so that you can really filter out the truth. So you can really understand not only what is being said, but why it's being said. Not only why it's being said, but also what it means. Right? So many things we read just over, we think just over, we live just over, and our attention to detail is not sufficient enough to be successful, protected, to have answers, and to be able to save ourselves, to be able to promote ourselves, produce, and things like that in life the way we want to. So he basically essentially gives the king the answer to the dream, right? So then, so he goes down and gives the dream, and keep going down. And okay, so then, okay, in verse 46, right there. In verse 46, it says, who wants to read that? Verse 46. So basically, the king says, hey, if you don't tell me my dream and interpretation, everybody's dying, essentially. Daniel says, hold on, let me figure it out. Let me go to my friends. We all get together. We get the answer. Daniel gives thanks to his God in heaven, which is different than the other gods, obviously, and says, okay, I have an answer now. Not just for myself because I'm special, but to save these people's lives, essentially. So verse 46, right? Who wants to read that?
Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him.
And one more. Read that. Read. You know what? You can read the next 4. You can read the rest of that page.
The king answered unto Daniel and said, of a truth it is that your God is a God of gods, and a Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, seeing thou couldst reveal this secret. Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief of the governors over all of the wise men of Babylon. Then Daniel requested of the king, and he set, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon, but Daniel sat in the gate of the king.
Okay. So, Kari, you said, basically, I keep a hater around me because of whatever else it is, right? My point to you is when Daniel won, what did he do with his friends? What did he do for them?
He kept everybody alive.
And yeah, but what did he do for his friends in the end?
Did he exalt them?
Yes, he said, hey, the king fell upon his face. He went from worshiping himself and to whomever to Daniel. He fell upon his face to Daniel and said, man, you got all the answers. So now he basically raised him up. He basically promoted him. And then Daniel turned around and said, okay, cool. But also I want you to go to my friends and I want you to pick them up. I want you to promote them. I want you to do something for them. Right? And so he took his friends with him. Now he stood in the gate because the story is about him primarily. But the point is that because he didn't defile himself in the beginning, look where he ended up in the end. He saved his life. Everyone else, him and his friends, saved their lives, everyone else's lives. They all got promoted. And they said, what? He said, your God is the God of truth. This God in heaven, now that they keep talking about, the king says, your God is truth. Now, your God in heaven is God of gods. That's what the king said. That's what the king said in this story. So he's now saying, okay, well, there's a difference between what we're doing and what you have. Well, whom we're talking to and whomever you're talking to, it's different. So as a result of who Daniel knows himself to be in his mind and who he's therefore worshiping, saying, if I got a problem, I'm going to this person. You guys had a problem and you went to this person or these people, and all of you basically would have been wiped out. But I went over here. And so where I went saved us all. I'm promoted to stand at the gate and put over everything. These people, my friends who I went to get help with, also, now they are promoted. So all of the people, when I say and are around us, right, we have to look at who's around us. When something goes down, those are the people that you can go to bring it back up. It went from everybody's dying to now everybody's alive and 4 people are promoted. So I don't mean this literally, but I just mean this figuratively. So hanging around haters has no value. Having them near you, close to you, standing by, chatting with them, rapping with them, talking to them has no value, because guess what? Bad company corrupts good manners. And the longer
Maybe I should explain that.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Oh, Okay, I was going to say, I only keep one, and I don't even tell him what his purpose is. So I know this guy, we used to be good friends, but he always had something negative to say about everything. And so the only time I come to him with something is if I want to hear what may be wrong about something, so I can go back and think, I didn't think about that. Let me fix this other thing that he pointed out. But I never tell him what his purpose is. He thinks that he's just being, whatever, but I know that I'm keeping him for that devil's advocate position. But only one. I can't have more than that.
Yes, sir. Right. Right. So the whole point is that they went from people that were just in the talented class, then they became the top of the top, the best of the best. Then they started saving people's lives, essentially. The people's lives who were supposed to be wise, the magicians and soothsayers and everything else, they're saving their lives. And now they're the only one at the end of the day that can answer the king's question. Right? They're the only ones. Right? But part of their ability to do that was what? They said, I won't defile myself. This is how I'm going to handle things. This is how I'm going to live. This is how I'm going to move. And we have to figure out in life how we're going to live and how we're going to move and not be changed by every wind and circumstance. Because sometimes the very path that you take out, to run from something is the very path that leads you to it. You're running from everything because you don't know yourself. You're running from everything because you're saying, well, now this is in, or now this is in, or this person's cool. Now this person's in charge. Now this person's in charge. Well, this is in, right? And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And it will go forever, right? And all the people that we run to get into groups with, allegiances with, alliances with, and things like that, a lot of times we're not really being mindful of who that is and what that is, why that is. Right? Because at the end of the day, you better be able to go to them. You better be able to have a conversation to save your life, to save your company, save your health, save your whatever else it may be. And a lot of times we're not surrounding ourselves truly with those type of people. And that has to be what we do if we want to be able to save our own life, if we want to be able to be promoted in life, if we want to be able to move up in life. Right? Eventually, people will call you what you're first calling yourself. Eventually, people will say about you what you're first saying about yourself. King didn't know them, but the king figured it out quick. And they went from ashy to classy quick, 0 to 100 quick. Now they're all promoted over provinces and Daniel standing at the gate, essentially. Right? So these are things that we have to understand, that these are things we have to start understanding, right? This is what I mean by saying extracting the truth out of something. I skipped a lot of things in there that, was kind of mining for gold because I don't, I'm trying to keep it moving as much as I can, but there's certain things I want you to understand. And when you're studying, look at the words of something, look at the tenses, how many people are there, how long are they there? Where did the story start? What were the statuses of people when the story started? How did people move? What situations came up so that you can understand how you can see yourself in certain situations like, oh, okay, I may have defiled myself on that. I may have kind of gave up the ghost on that. I may have kind of done something I probably really didn't want to do, but I thought I had to do because of A, B, and C or X, Y, and Z. Right. And so, but those very same people, but if you learn in the story, if you do that, you're going to, a lot of times you can end up with the same group of people who can't help themselves. So now you're in because you went along to get along, but now you about to go all the way along out. You about to go all the way out. Right. And so little things like this in a story are important. That's why I'm harping on the details. Little things like this are important. Right. Okay. I need you to pull that back up for me. Okay. So go to the next one, to the arrow, chapter 3, I think it is. Because now his friends. So now this is a prime example of people never learn. They just never learn. So now this king is said all this stuff and said, your gods is this and the truth and everything like that. First sentence, what does he do? First sentence. What does he do? Makes an image of gold. Build it high. They're just talking about how high this is. This is old English, old math. But the first thing you do after you go through all that, you go out there and build a gold statue. Now, if none of the humans can help you, what is this gold statue going to do? Why are you building a gold statue? But you know, once we as people get out of something, boy, the party continues. We strike up the band quick. We forget what got us in the situation we're in the first place. We go right back up to it, right? So then he said, okay, so then Nebuchadnezzar, the king, sent together, we're in chapter 3 now, right? The king then sent to gather together the princes, the governors, the captains, all the in crowd, the judges, all these people. Now remember, what is funny about all these people in chapter 2? Nebuchadnezzar goes to get all these people. What's funny about these people in this sentence right here, in this paragraph, I'm sorry? What's ironic about all these people? I don't know if irony is the word, but what is it? What is a trip? What is interesting about all these people that Nebuchadnezzar goes to get in the second sentence?
Are those all the same people he tried to talk to the first time that couldn't help?
Essentially, where were these people when everybody's about to die? Where were they? Why is he building a gold statue? And then he's basically throwing a party. He's out here like Diddy throwing a white party. You literally about to kill everybody. And then the next day you throwing a party with everybody. The same people you're about to kill, you throwing a party with. People never learn. People learn the hard way. They will repeat the same behaviors over and over. Oh, I'm winning. Oh my God, I'm about to die. Oh God, I made it out. Where's the party at? We right back to it. Right? So he goes to invite all these people who literally would be dead. All these people are essentially dead people. Their lives are saved by someone else. And guess who wasn't invited? Who did he not go get?
Daniel.
Yeah.
I'm guessing Daniel.
Yeah, none of them were invited. The people who saved everyone's life are not invited.
Yeah, put in the chat, they wanted status.
Who?
I'm thinking, I don't know.
Well, I mean, if the king asked you to come to the party,
The officials.
yeah, if the king asked you to come to the party, I get it. But the point is, like, oh, you would have been dead. So the king who had all these problems and couldn't sleep, now all of a sudden can't even invite the dude who saved your problems and your sleep. The people who are alive are coming to the party. Nobody say, well, hey man, let's go at least get the dude who made this happen. He wasn't invited. Right? So sometimes when you help people, don't be mad. Sometimes when you help people, don't be mad. Decide you're going to do it because that's what you want to do. But don't be sitting around waiting for everybody to get it, to throw you a party and say thank you and everything else like that, because a lot of times people's minds are not in that place. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been in the trouble they're in, or they would have been able to help themselves out of the trouble they were in. You have to be willing to be okay with the fact that you do something because of who you are. And understand that that's not necessarily who they are, and you can still help them and benefit them if you so choose, but not sitting around waiting to say, hey man, what about me? If they thought like that, they wouldn't have been in the situation they were in, or the situation they couldn't get out of. But it is funny, boy, they will come back and throw a party the next day. Just never learn. Right? So then the princes and the governors and captains, the judges, the treasurers, I mean, everybody's there. Were gathered together to the dedication of this image that the king Nebuchadnezzar set up and stood before the image, and they all stood before the image that the king set up. So now the king, the king makes something, this big old gold. So now he got this idea with this big old gold, and he brings everybody to come out and admire it and essentially low-key worship it like it's some kind of big thing to behold.
So Alyssa had put in the chat, I love that. And then Akia put, people like Daniel makes king uncomfortable. They are afraid of the truth.
Yeah. A lot of these kings, we have to remember too, just like presidents, are just put in power by someone else. And in these books and cases, they were just basically, they were either raids or they were just passed down generationally. But these don't necessarily mean the smartest people or the brightest people. So they don't always know, most of the time don't know much more than anybody else. but they have so many aides and support and things like that, that those people do. Their aides and their supports know, right? But those people don't necessarily make any decisions themselves on their own merit or their own intellect. So they just get to play around, and everybody else has to make it work, right? So they all sit around and gather this stuff up and praise it and everything like that. So then they said, okay, then the herald, like the town crier, like the announcer, you know, in verse 4 says, you know, to you is commanded, people and nations, that whenever you hear this, you know, this sound and this harp and things like that, that, you know, you are to fall down and worship this golden image. So now the king gets a big idea that right after he got, you know, saved, stopped killing everybody, or stop from killing everybody. He's going to make a big party now, going to build this big image, and everybody's got to sit when they play this music. You got to fall down before this golden image.
Alyssa put in the chat, I love the point where Coach Lucky stated, don't wait for a party for people. You don't need things for you. And then you don't need things for, go with your intention and do without expecting.
Yeah, in the sense of, if you decide to help someone across the street because for whatever reason they need it, and then you help them across the street and they don't say thank you, that wasn't their idea, that was your idea. You decided that. So that person never asked you for that, even though they may need it. But you decided that. So you're mad at somebody else for the decision you made up, and the idea you made up, the decision you made to do it, and they didn't ask you for that. They didn't know anything about that. Now they could have needed it, and that shows lack of maturity on their end, not your own. Your lack of maturity would be being mad at them because that wasn't their decision or their desire or their request. Their lack of maturity is the fact that they can't see that, hey, somebody did something for me they didn't have to. And I'm too ignorant or immature in my mind to see that. That's going to hurt me. That lack of maturity is going to hurt me somewhere else, so that when I need that help and somebody else would have given it to me, they won't. I'm going to end up hurting myself, right? So yeah, it's you know, we always have to be mindful of that, right? But so they say, okay, we're gonna worship this thing now. We're gonna do this thing now. So then they said, okay. So at the time, and the 7th, they said at the time, and the people heard the sound of the hornet, everybody fell down and worshiped the image, right? Everybody worshiped the golden image. So now that's what I mean is now you just have people the king is just making up anything, and now you just got to go with it. But remember, Daniel didn't do that. Daniel didn't do that. He said, I'm not going to defile myself. Even with food, I'm not doing it. But all these people are doing because they're going along and getting along. But these are the same people who are going to be wiped out a chapter ago. So you're going along and getting along ain't going to always save you. It's not going to always help you, because people are going to start making up anything. And then what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Now you got to come into work 30 minutes early. Now you got to come an hour early. Now you got to come 2 hours early. Now you got to work on the weekend. Now you got to take your phone with you everywhere you go. Like there's always going to be something when you are always on somebody else's watch. There's always going to be something some bright idea they got that you got to do. Right? And you have to know yourself well enough. You have to have a concept of yourself, an understanding of yourself. You have to have a mind like Daniel does, like his friends do that you're about to see, right? We're going to do this story and one more other, and then we're going to get into the next stuff. So they said, okay, therefore at the time, you know, that's okay, I'm reading one right before. At the time, Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews, right? They spoke and said to the king, Nebuchadnezzar, O king, you made a decree that every man shall hear of the hornet, the flute, and all the other stuff, that they should fall down and worship the golden image. So they accuse the Jews. These are essentially haters. That's what these are. These are people who are looking to get favor with the king by telling on other people. We got those today. We got those today, right? Come on, man. We got those today. These are today's haters. I'm going over this painstakingly. I'm skipping a lot of things that I want to, you know, this will take hours to do, but this is what I mean by studying. I want you to understand that this is just a document, but I want you to learn how to extract the truth out of any document you read, whether it's the newspaper, whether it's this book, whether it is a white paper, whether it is a news article, it doesn't matter. I want you to learn how to extract it, and you have to pay attention to details to be able to get the truth of something, whether it's a lot, a little, whether what applies to you, what doesn't, right? So these are, and put it into context so you can understand what it's saying. These are essentially the haters. These are people trying to get favor with the king by telling on somebody else. We got them today. So hating ain't new. And it didn't just start happening to you. So stop whining and crying and complaining on people hating on you. You're not the first one. Just let it stop the cap, knock it off. Right? So now you got to figure out how to deal with things. Right? So then it said, okay, they didn't do that. So then Nebuchadnezzar in his rage, I'm reading verse 13, the king in his rage and fury commanded to bring the three now Daniel's friends. He's bringing the friends because when they did this harp thing, this noise, they didn't fall down and worship because remember, these are the people Daniel went to when he had a problem. So they're all on the same level, and meaning in the same mind. They all are like-minded. So when they did that, they were like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not falling down doing that. Right. And he said, okay, he said to them, is it true that you don't serve my gods, nor worship the golden image? So my God. So what is he saying? Right? When I asked Carl, I said, well, what God is he talking about? Remember, we said the God in heaven. Well, he said, my gods. Is it true that you don't serve my gods? Again, they're showing you they're different gods. They're different sources of protection, provision, wisdom, information, although they're different. And Daniel's God seems to be the only one who has it. This person now whose God couldn't answer, you couldn't sleep, couldn't do anything, you're about to kill everybody. Now you done build a gold statue and serve my gods. Well, where were they when you couldn't sleep? Where were they when all this other stuff was happening? Why are you keep fooling with these people? That's in today's language. Why do you keep fooling with these people? Why do you keep doing this, right? So he said, is it true you don't do that? And if it were me, I'd be like, you still doing that? You ain't learned yet? Okay, but anyway, that's what I would have said. But so is it true that you don't serve my gods nor worship the golden image I've set up? He said, now, if you're ready to do that, when you hear the sound of the flute, right? If you're ready to do that, you're ready to fall down and worship the image which I have made. So that means anything you make, I got to worship. So now you go on and make a hockey stick, and I gotta fall down to that too. You go on and make you some. It could be anything. So whatever you make, I gotta worship now. That's what we're doing. So people in life worship. You start to see people start worshiping anything, everything, and they want you to do it with them. And mad if you don't. But yet those things they worship, they can't pray to, can't get no answers from, nothing. And they want you to roll with them. And mad if you don't, threaten you if you don't. So what they say? And they said, no, so go back up a little bit, the one right there. So he said, is it true that, that you don't do that? He said, now, I'm going to give you another chance. And verse 15, he said, basically, I'm going to give you another chance. If you are willing to do that, we're all good. He said, but if you don't, you shall be cast the same hour. Right now, you're going to be thrown into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that God? Who is that God that can deliver you out of my hands? He's saying, who is that? Who's going to save you from me? Well, obviously, he doesn't know their God. It's obvious. And in that moment, he thinks it's him. So, like Daniel, let's see what they said. The three answered and said to the king, we are not careful to answer you in this matter. If it be so, we're just going to give it to you straight. If it be so, our God. So he has my gods and they have our God. So if it be so, if you decide to do this, our God whom we serve is able. Now, the God that you serve was unable to keep you you couldn't sleep. You couldn't answer your own dreams. You couldn't do anything. But the God that we serve, right, is able to deliver us from the fiery burning furnace. And he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. We're telling you. Now we're clapping back. Now we're saying, look, man, we're not careful to answer you. We're going to just give it to you straight. We're not going to play with you, right? If you decide to do this, the God we serve is going to take care of us. Whatever you're trying to do is not going to work out. And then would have said, but if not, even if that doesn't happen, let it be known, be it known unto thee. Let it be known. Know this, O king. I'm still calling you the king. No worries, no hate. You're king, not God. There's difference. Well, let it be known that we will not serve your gods, nor worship the golden image you have set up. Just let it be known. So we're not careful to tell you, well, this is very clear. Let it be known that the God that we serve is able to deliver us anyway. However, even if the God we serve didn't, let it be known that we will not. So this is not like, can you give us a minute to think about it? Well, if I do it, can I get a promotion? Oh, well, if I, no, no, I will not defile myself with this food. That's what Daniel said. I'm not going to do that. Give me this and I'll prove it to you. These people said, yeah, I'm not going to defile myself, bound to no gold statue and all your gods. I'm not going to do that. So if you decide because you're mad that you're going to do this, well, my God who I serve is going to save me anyway. So, and even if it doesn't, even if that God does not, just let it be known I'm not doing that. I mean, what did Tupac say? I'd rather die like a man than live like a coward. Like at some point you got to have some like, what are you? Are you about this action or not? Like, what are you? What do you stand for? But it's hard to stand for something if you don't have nothing supporting you. It's hard to stand if you don't have no vertebrae. Hard to stand if you don't have no feet. It's hard to stand if you don't have something supporting you. And they said, we have a God that supports us. So this God will save us. And even if it doesn't, we won't be doing that. So then Nebuchadnezzar, full of fury, and the form of his, and his visage was changed. So basically his whole countenance, he just went from happy to hating, right? And he said, okay, therefore he spoke and commanded that they should heat the furnace up 7 times more than normal and to throw them in there, right? And he commanded the strong men, the mighty men that were in his army to basically tie them up and throw them into the burning furnace, right? And then these, they were bound, they were tied up in their stuff and all their clothes, and they were cast into the burning furnace. So since they didn't want to do that, since they wouldn't defile themselves, now they're in a situation, right? Now they're in a situation. So then it says, okay, therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, they burnt the furnace. They heated the furnace so quick because they saw he was so mad. They were heating the furnace up so quick. They made it so hot that the people who basically took them up there to throw them in got burnt up. So they basically got burnt up, threw them in there, got burnt up, and now they fell bound in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. The burning fiery furnace, what is that? What is that? What is the burning fiery furnace? Yeah, I want us to be able to take a story and make it relevant today, to extract the truth of the story. What is the fiery burning furnace? What is the thing that's hot and is fiery burning furnace? What is that?
Purgatory, hell.
Okay, who else? Good, okay. Yeah, but today, right now, they didn't go to hell. They threw them in a furnace. They threw them in an oven. So then what is that fiery furnace right now today? What is that?
Prison.
Nope.
Regret.
Nope. That's good. That's good.
Stress.
It's your life when it gets real.
Steph put in the chat, stands for something or you will fall for everything. Stand for something or you will fall for everything.
Yes, it's your life when it gets real. When somebody says to you, when you got a bill that you can't pay, when somebody says to you, if you don't work 6 hours of overtime, then you're gonna lose your job, but you're supposed to pick your kids up from school, or you have to take them to the doctor. You have to have, I'm using this word, we'll get to it later, but you have to have a God you serve that says when it gets real, it's real. Everybody got a God they serve when everybody's taking a nap and on vacation. And when, your check came a day early and $1,000 more in it unexpectedly. Everybody's feeling good. Everybody's feeling good when they're feeling good. It's Saturday night and you got your thing. Everybody's feeling good when it's feeling good. But what happens when life comes and tests what you believe? Come and test who you are. What do you do then? Do you defile yourself and say, let me just, we worship, you can see how many different gods are in here. We worship in all kinds of things. Constantly. Right? has, and if we were to go to church and somebody, and you see somebody going, oh Lord, right? Praising the Lord, right? And they're like, oh Lord. Don't people say the same thing when they got a bill they can't pay? Oh Lord. Don't you see people going like this in church? They'd be like, oh Lord. When people got a bill they can't pay, they just go ahead and change the need. They just do the other need. They'd be like, oh Lord, right? People worship their problems just like a God. They make their God a problem. They make their problem a God. People worship all kinds of things in life. When I said a couple weeks ago, hey, if you don't want to be mad at God, don't choose the wrong one. There's too many gods rolling. Our problems are God. Our money is a God. You can see golden images are God. Money is God. Everything is all these, meaning things that we worship, things that we think are bigger than us and that are the key to our safety, our sanity, our health, or whatever else it may be. We're worshiping a whole bunch of things that can't help instead of something that can, which we'll get to, where this is not religious or denominational. The truth is not religious or denominational. The truth is the truth. That's all it is. Like gravity. It ain't racist, it ain't sexist, it's just the truth. Right? So it is important for us to understand, like, everything can't be worshiped, but you end up worshiping everything or anything when you don't know who or what to worship. We just out here just playing roulette, just gambling on every number, just gambling on everything, hoping something will hit. Right? We have to figure out what is the truth. Daniel seemed to know there's only one. His homies seemed to know there's only one. They didn't go plural. They said God, our God, God in heaven. They mentioned one. Everybody else is mentioning several, but they got more than they have more gods than this one, and yet all them gods couldn't help them do anything. Right? We have too many gods. We have too many things that we're worshiping. Our problems, poor health, no money. We're making all these things bigger than ourselves, thinking that. But we're essentially praying to something that can't answer, won't help, can't help. And we have to start, but we do that when we don't know who we are. We do that when we don't know any better. Right? Okay, let's turn it back because I want to show everybody the answer, what they said. So then they said, so they got thrown in there, right? And then they said, then the king was astonished and rose up in haste, right? Got up quick and spoke and said unto his counselors, didn't we cast the men bound into the midst of this fire? And they answered the king, yes, true. And he said, lo, look, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Right? Okay, go down. He said, then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the fire and spoke and said to the 3 boys, you servants of the Most High God. Now we're back to this one. God of gods, truth. Now it's the Most High, right? Son of the Most High, servants of the Most High God. Okay, so come here. Then Shadrach, then the boys came out of the fire, right? Then they said, and the princes and the captains and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was a hair of their head singed, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire on them. So now, what they said from the beginning happened in the end. At the beginning, they said, no, I'm not going to do that. Then now they're put in a situation, now they're in the fiery furnace. In life, you may say to something, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to defile myself with that. Even though I may need the money, even though I may need this, or I may this or that, I'm not going to do that. But then comes the fire. Then comes that thing in life where it gets real. Oh, for real? You not? Okay, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what you believe. We'll see in whom you believe. We'll see what you believe. We'll see. Right? And so they were thrown in. The fire got hot. Life got hot. But when life gets hot, it doesn't have to make it too hot for you. Right? It doesn't mean that you can't keep stepping. You don't have to stay in it. You just may walk through it. Right? And they're showing you can walk through it when you know who you are and you have something. That people's hate and people's all kind of jealousy and stuff like that doesn't, just because people are trying to do something to you, doesn't mean they actually can. Just because people tell on you doesn't mean they can do something to you. Just because people are trying doesn't mean that they're successful. They're just trying. But they're trying because they don't know any better, and you're winning because you do, and you'll always win. As long as you remain you, as long as you know who you are. Right? So now you can see why it worked earlier, that they were able to save themselves, because now these three cats go through their own situation, and Daniel not around. And you can see that they are like, yeah, we're not going to do that. And our God will save us. And even if the God doesn't, we still are not doing it. Boom, throw us in. Now it's hot. Now it's real in life. What are you going to do? You in it. What are you going to do? But because, right, then they said, okay. Then he said after that, the king says, blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, these people, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants. So blessed be the God of them. That means it wasn't his God. Blessed be the God of Shadrach, of the boys, not of the men, not him. So Nebuchadnezzar and those other men, Shadrach and them, have different gods. Who has sent his angel and delivered his servants. So they were delivered because they were the servants of God. They were the servants. They stayed faithful and loyal. They didn't defile themselves, whether it's in diet or whether it is in behavior. In worship, they didn't defile themselves. They stayed true to what they believed. Right? And delivered his servants who trusted in him, that trusted in what they were worshiping, and have changed the king's words. So that same person who threw you in, now his words are changed. Now his words are changed. These according to him, and have changed the king's word, and yielded their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any god except their own. Except their own. You have to find out who and what God is to you. We'll get to that in a little bit. And I don't mean religiously and denominationally and all the other stuff. You have to figure that out. Because if you waver and don't know and don't figure it out, you'll be in that fire and it'll be a wrap. You'll be in life and it'll get hot and you will get burnt up. Playing around, changing your mind. Well, if I just, you'll get burned up. You better know who you're talking to, who you're talking about, what you're worshiping, who you're worshiping, what you're worshiping for. You better know. Because if you decide to stand on that, you have to have the courage to walk through it. If you don't know and you change your mind like everyone else, you'll always be in fear of thrown in. So you're always going to defile yourself. You're always going to compromise yourself. You're always going to compromise yourself for fear of being tested, of having proof. But you can't live a life with no proof. You just can't do it. Sorry, let everybody know. You can't live a life with no proof. At some point, you're going to have to prove what you know and what you believe. They do it all the time since, second grade, maybe third, when they start giving you tests. At some point, you got to prove it. Homework is nice. You going to class every day is nice. But at some point, you're going to have to prove it. I say this passionately because I got to prove it. Every day, I'm thinking about stuff just like everybody else. And just because I may be talking the most does not mean I have all the answers. Or do I proclaim that I do? I just talk this passionately because I'm living it just the same way I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you and I'm talking to me. That's why I talk so much, because I'm trying to pump me up as much as I'm trying to pump you up. Yeah, as much as I am too, right? I want you to know, right? But I've always said, I will stand here until my face is yellow. I said, I'm only right about one thing. I'm right about one thing. I will say I'm right about one thing only, but forever. What is that one thing that I said I'm right about? Who's been here and heard me say that?
I know you. I know you.
Yeah, essentially, that you are even greater than I can say to you. That you are even bigger and better and stronger. You are more amazing than I can even tell you. I am right about you. That you are that person. You are that. That's what I'm right about. I don't care how you choose to express that. Daniel's at the gate. They're in the furnace. We're not all going the same places. We're not all doing the same things. We're not all going in the same directions. But that doesn't change who we are. But the only way to be who we are is we have to stand on that knowledge, know it, and stand on it. And in life, you are going to have to prove it. not to each other, to life. You're going to have to go through that furnace in life. It doesn't mean you're expecting bad news or that you have to go through bad things. That's not what I mean. I'm just saying in life, things happen and you're going to have to figure out, do you really believe what you believe? Do you really think what you think? Do you really know what you know? Oh, we put that up back up, please. Because I want to get back to that. Thank you. Right? I want you to understand that. Right? But you can't be running and dodging and hiding. It ain't going to work otherwise. So then it says, therefore, right, after they do all this, and they said, I'm not doing it. Then he calls them out, and they're like, yeah, man, that was nice. All right, what we doing now? Right? Then the king says, you changed my word. Right? And he says that you kept your word. Right? You are an example. You kept your word. They said that they yielded their bodies that they may not serve or worship any God except their own. Except their own. Right? Therefore, as a result of being who they are, now you change this person's mind. You didn't have to change your mind to go with them. You keep your mind and let them change theirs. You keep your mind and let them change their mind. Look how quick he changed it. Look how they would not change theirs because he's over here just guessing. He's over here just throwing up anything, right? But they know who they are. So they're not going to change their mind. As a result of keeping their mind, they changed his. He said, therefore, I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss, anything incorrect or wrong against the God of these people shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort like that. No other God can do what just happened here. Because obviously he probably knows a lot of them. He worships a lot of them, whether it's a gold image, his plural gods and everything else. So he's like, there ain't no God I've seen or heard of, and I know a couple of them, and they ain't rolling like that. So I'm going to make a decree that anybody who says anything wrong or crazy sideways about this God that they serve, that you're going to be cut up and your house is going to be burned up. Now, this is after he tried to burn these people up. Right? And so then what happens? Then the king promoted. So then life promotes you when you go through that. But it's hard to go through something if you don't know who you are. It's hard to go through something when you're changing your identity every day. I'm healthy, now I'm sick. I'm rich, now I'm poor. I'm this, now I'm that. Oh, well, somebody told me if I just do this, then I can get that. And you're just out here prostituting all your beliefs. You out here worshiping anything you can find, hoping you hit 21, like a blackjack. Right? This is why that happens. If you can't stand on who you are, you can't do it if you don't know who you are. You can't do it. Right? And this is why we're talking about what we're talking about today. I want you to learn how to several different things, but one of which is how to take this information in anything that you read and take out the truth. Learn how to extrapolate the truth of something and see what's really happening in life. Right? Yes.
Well, while I stepped away, Akia had in the chat, these warlords were harsh. And then she said the king didn't learn his lesson, still burning people up.
Yeah, most people don't learn their lesson, right? They go out and do the same thing week after week, don't they? Don't you have your friends calling you the same time every week talking about, girl, guess what? Talking about the same person or the same financial state or the same health state, but 2 days earlier you tried to stop them because you remember what happened last week and how quickly they forgot. Oh, girl, it's okay because I just didn't take my vitamins that week, but I'm back. Oh, that's the girl, I just was dehydrated. Or your friend, people tell you anything so they can get what they want right then. But the next week, boy, they'll be right back in that same situation. Oh, then let me tell you. And then guess what? Then they get mad when you don't want to listen. Oh, you too good to listen now? Girl, ain't nobody perfect. I mean, only God can judge me. Absolutely not. Your stomach is judging you. Your blood pressure is judging you. Your bank account is judging you. Your feet are judging you. Everything. And what are you talking about? You're being judged every moment of every day, right? This is. Go ahead.
Akia put in the chat, violence beget violence.
Yes, it does. But as you can see, to who? The person who has the violence in them is always they are the sower and the reaper. It's always going to come back. It's always going to come back. Always. It always does. It's a law. People call it karma, but it's a law. It's a law of sowing and reaping. You can't do something that's not in you. So the seed to do it is how you acted on it. But if the seed is in you, how does it not become you?
she put, what's the difference between the law of man and the law of God?
One is timeless.
So okay, I was gonna get to that actually. Let me just remind me to come back to that. Let me finish this. I got one more story I want to give you guys, and then we'll get back to that because that's gonna kind of be in the second part. So okay, go back. We got one more story, and then we're gonna get back to that. So just, Veronica, please remind me on that one, right? Because we'll get to that. All right, next chapter.
Oops.
Okay. So basically, this one, no, this is basically he interprets another dream. We'll get to that. Because okay. So basically, in this chapter, Nebuchadnezzar has another dream, right? And he's afraid, right? So this is the same dude got saved once because he's gonna kill everybody. Then the next day he's throwing a party. Now he has another dream, right? So it's kind of the same thing. And he brings the wise men, and they don't know. And Daniel comes back and does it again, essentially. Okay, so I want to get to the one more story though. Let's see. Okay, let's do this one real quick. So let's do this one real quick. So
Akia put, Kari put man's law expires, and Akia put, I feel like we're reading about man's law, wanting to control others, saying God gave them the authority for cruelty.
it is true. You will worship any God if you don't have your own, and you don't know who yours is, and you don't know what the difference is. You'll worship anything and call it God. They were worshiping a gold image, calling it God. Look at go. Okay, so can you go back to the way it was before? No, the type, yeah, that version. No, the chapter is the same, but you changed the version in that.
Oh.
Yeah. No, it's harder for me to see because the paragraphs are so tight.
Okay.
Go to the fifth. I think it's the fifth one now. So yeah, that's where it was.
Sorry.
To the New King James, it should be. It's in.
Oh, that's not it.
That's fine. Whatever. That's fine. That's fine.
Here it is.
Okay. So basically in this chapter, right, he said Belteshazzar, the king, made a great feast for 1,000 of his lords and drank wine in the presence of thousands. While he tasted the wine, he gave the command to bring the gold and silver vessels which his father had taken from the temple, which had been in Jerusalem. So remember at the beginning in chapter 1, this is basically Belteshazzar is the son of Nebuchadnezzar. So now he's basically drinking from the stuff that his dad had took in the first. He's drinking his stuff that his dad had took, all the gold and silver and ornaments and stuff and cups from the raid, from the takeover. He's drinking out of it now, right? And he says, then they brought the gold vessels that had been taken from the temple of the house of God, which had been in Jerusalem. And the king and his lords, his wives and his concubines drank from them. They drank wine and praised the gods. They praised the gods of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. Now, how many of you have ever heard a God of wood? How do you even do that? You got a God of wood, a stone, bronze, iron, gold, silver. This is what I mean. When you're out here just worshiping anything, this is what it looks like. You're just worshiping anything, right? And that's why all these things that they keep worshiping, they can't ever help because, well, we'll get into that. So then basically, he was sitting there and there was a hand that came on the wall and wrote, and it scared him. His countenance changed. They said it scared him. And the king cried, and he's like, okay, in verse 7, he says, bring the astrologers. So now he's bringing back these same people in verse 7 to help him because he sees his hand writing on the wall. And he's saying, oh man, bring everybody. And he says, whoever reads the writing, tells me the interpretation, will be clothed with purple, with a purple robe and a chain of gold, and he shall be the ruler in the third ruler in the kingdom. So now all the king's wise men come, but they cannot read the writing or make known to the king its interpretation. How many times is this going to happen? Is nobody figuring this out yet? Like, you keep calling these same people and they haven't had an answer for you once. You keep calling the same people, but of course you do, because you keep taking care of them. So you want to do something for you. But just because you keep taking care of somebody doesn't mean they're ever going to be able to do anything for you necessarily. You got to be able to distinguish between the two. And then you also have to distinguish, what am I asking them for? Am I asking them for something that I think they should do, but they've never shown me the propensity or ability to do? Am I putting them in the wrong position? Am I asking them for something just because I'm taking care of them or because we have a certain relationship? That doesn't mean they can actually fulfill the obligations of it. They may be in the wrong role. I may be asking them for the wrong thing. Because every time all these kings get in trouble, they do the same thing, keep calling the same people, and they've never got an answer once. So then they say, right? They said, the queen, because of the words of the king and his lords, came to the banquet hall. The queen spoke, saying, O king, right? Do not let your thoughts trouble you, nor your countenance, don't let your mood change. There's a man in your kingdom in whom is the spirit of the holy God. So now it's the holy God. So this God so far is the true God of the gods, holy, most high, and yet nobody has anything to do with it until there's a problem. Nobody figures it out yet. Everybody's still doing the same thing, right? So then they said, okay, and they said, in whom is the spirit of the holy God. And in the days of your father, right, light and understanding and wisdom, light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, were found in him. And King Nebuchadnezzar, your father the king, made him chief of all these people. So he's the head over all these people. Yet he has a different God. He's the head over all these people, all the social media clubs and fans and everybody in the group. He's not even in the group, and he's the head of them, right? And he said, inasmuch as an excellent spirit, knowledge, understanding, interpreting dreams, solving riddles, and explaining enigmas were found in this Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will give the interpretation. Now, out of this whole paragraph, what does this say? What does it say to you? What is this, that whole paragraph? Right? Who was talking? Right? What does she say? Where did she come from? What does this paragraph mean?
The queen is wise.
Okay. Queen is wise. Okay. Anybody else? Like, look at it. See what's going on. Put it into context. Put it into your life. Like, into now, right? Put it into what is happening.
Same mistakes over and over?
Pretty good. This is essentially a referral. When you have a business and you're good at something, this is what happens. People are like, hey, remember when we took our car over to so-and-so, right? Or remember when we went to that dentist that time because, my tooth got hit, and this is a referral. This is somebody remembering your level of something. That's why at the end she said, inasmuch as an excellent spirit, knowledge, understanding, interpreting dreams. She's now going over all the skills this person has. This is a referral. So when you're talking about I have a business and how do I have to get something, guess what? When you are doing what you're doing like Daniel did it, People will know. People will hear about you. People will remember you. People will refer you. Because they'll realize that even though there are a lot of people, there isn't anyone like you. I mean, they called everybody, didn't they? They said they called the astrologer, the soothsayer, the magicians, the Chaldeans. They called everybody. So it's not the absence of people. It's not the lack of people. It's that none of them are you. But Daniel said, I won't defile myself. Daniel, see, everybody wants to stand out when it's time to get paid, but nobody wants to stand out when it's time to do the work. Everybody wants to work evenly divided, but everybody wants to pay to be hierarchical. Well, I should get paid more. Why? You did the same work. Well, I should get more of this. Why? You're just like him, just like her. You the same. You can all die. You're all the same value. You can all get it. But Daniel said, no, I'm not like them. Not just when it was time for pay, but in work. Not when it was time for pay, but when I had to say I won't defile myself. I'm not going to eat like everybody eats. I'm not going to think like everybody thinks. I'm not going to act like everybody acts. He said that when it wasn't comfortable, when it wasn't convenient, when it wasn't the in thing to do. Right? But now he stood out then, but he stands out now. Now, when you have a business, and because that's who you are, people will refer you just like that. They're like, hey man, I know somebody. There's 1,000 mechanics, but none of them like you. There's 1,000 entrepreneurs, but not like you. There's 1,000 daycare providers, but not like you. You're not going to be the only one doing what you do in life. But that don't mean you can't be thought of that way. There's 1,000 million basketball players. People still talk about Michael Jordan. He ain't played in 30 years, just almost. It's not the absence of numbers. It's the fact that when you are who you are, you just stand out. When you know who you are, you just stand out. When you know who your God is, when you know who you are, you stand out. You don't need to cut the numbers down. You don't need to find some remote place where nobody else is around doing what you're doing, because they can't do it like you. They can't do it like you. You're not in competition. They can't do it like you. How can they do it like you and they're not you? If everybody's unique and original, how can they do it like you? It's not possible. I don't care if you're doing hair. I don't care if you're doing makeup. I don't care what you're doing. The uniqueness of you will shine through your business and your outcomes so that your outcome will be unique, that you will be able to stand. Everybody will be looking for you for the way you do something, because you know who you are. You didn't defile yourself. You didn't try to be like everyone else. But you have to have a backbone to do that. You have to know who you are. You have to know what God you're worshiping. And as you can see, they worship in cups, stones, bronze, gold, wood. They worship. I mean, it's like an elementary school playground yard. They just picking up something like God. We're just picking up things now, worshiping everything now. What's the difference if it all means the same? Can't none of them talk back. Can't none of them hear you, right? That's why that happens, right? Pull it back up for me, please. So I want to show you this part and get to this other part, and then we'll finish it off because it just goes so fast. So whoever can answer this thing, I'll give you this purple robe and this chain. Then Daniel answered in verse 17, right? Right there, he said, then Daniel answered, and what did he say? Somebody tell me right there what he said. Somebody, what did he say?
Daniel answered and said, before the king, let your gifts be for yourself and give your rewards to another. Yet I will read the writing to the king and make known to him the interpretation.
Thank you. Look at what he said. Man, keep the gifts to yourself, champ. Give your gifts to another. You're like you over here looking for anybody to help you, and you think because of what you can give them, they're going to help you. But you could give them all these things that you're ready to give me, and they still can't help you. I'm not them. Well, a lot of times what people give you, what people try to give you to incentivize you, actually will enslave you. It will actually lock you up. You'll be so worried about what you can get or what you can get for it. Oh, don't do that. If you give it to them too early, they won't buy the whole package. If you give it to them and you say $19.97, it's psychological. If you say $20, they won't buy it. If you tell them too much, then they're not going to buy the course. If you tell them too, you're so worried about what you give because you're concerned about what you're going to get back. But you should be concerned what you're going to get back, because the king don't really have nothing to give you, really. Only your God does. That's the only person that gave you the dream or the wisdom to keep you alive in the first place. You would have been dead 3 chapters ago. Have we forgotten already? Right? You would have been dead 3 chapters ago. Right? So the kings, the humanities, kind of like Ikea was saying, and Carter was talking about a little bit, humanities laws work on incentivizing. Humanity works on incentives. If you do this, I'll do that. If you do this, I'll do that. If you don't do this, I won't do that. That's how they work. Well, but it's okay if it's understood, but most of us don't understand. So then we pervert incentives. So we say we're going to do it, then we don't do it. Or we give you something, but then you almost feel hostage to the thing you're given. Well, remember I gave you that thing, didn't I? I mean, you can't just do this little favor for me. No, I can't let you use my car because you let me use yours when I was broken down, but you want to use mine to go to the beach. No, you can't. No, right? Like a lot of times humanity's incentive-based living will throw off your thing if you do everything for it. It doesn't mean you can't accept rewards, but you don't make that your incentive to move. Because otherwise you'll always be guided, trapped, you'll be lured into things, and you'll look up and say, how did I get here? Right? You'll be enslaved by the things you accepted because you're not even doing it now for the right reason. You're just doing it like all the other people, just to either stay on the good side, go along to get along. You'll turn into a hater like all these other people are doing, right? Telling the king like, hey man, we heard that music and you see him over there? You'll turn into things you don't even like or recognize or want because you're so driven by what you think someone else can do for you. But how can the king do anything for you and he can't even interpret his own dream? It is his. He can't even interpret his own dream. He can't even understand his own mind. What is he going to do for you except what? Kill you. Take something from you or try to bribe you to give him what he wants. He don't care nothing about you. Right? So Daniel said, you know what? Cool. Keep that for yourself. I don't need that. Right? As far as to do what I do. Right? So anyway, he went on and interpreted the dream. Okay. So you can go down. Wait, right there. But now watch this. Here's one thing I want you to see. Right there in verse 22. But you, his son, now he's talking to the king, said, but you, his son, you have not humbled your heart, although you knew. And he talked about his father's journey. That's what he was talking about in the paragraphs before. He said, your father basically went through the same thing. You knew all this, and yet you're still doing the same stuff your dad was doing. And you have fled, and you have, he said, although you knew all this, and you have lifted yourself up against the Lord of heaven. And they have, and then they said, and they brought the vessels of his house before you and your lords and your wives and concubines and have drunk from them. And you have praised the gods of silver and gold, bronze and iron and stone. What does it say? Which do not see, hear, or know. You praise all these things which don't see, hear, or know. That's what he's telling him. He said, and you knew better. But yet you went off and did the same thing that your dad did, knowing all of his calamities. And yet your mother basically is the one who saved you this time. Because she said, hey, man, I know a dude. I know somebody before this gets too crazy. And then Daniel says, you're doing the same thing your dad did. And you're praising all these things which don't see, hear, or know. And he said, and the God who holds your breath in his hand and owns all your ways, you have not glorified. So you making golden statues, people, you doing this and praising God, and all these things can't help you. We have too many things in our life that we are worshiping, including problems. Problems is another thing people worship. We talk about it. We're on bended knee about it, crying about it, praying about it. You can't tell if somebody's at home or in a church service. Boy, they worshiping these problems like it's something else, right? We worshiping too many things, right? And we have to make sure we find the right things that can see, hear, or know what we're talking about. It has to be a living thing, right? Which we'll get to. It has to be a living thing. It can't be these gold, bronze, wood, silver. They don't hear nothing, right? And he says, and so basically he tells them the inscription and things like that. Then at the end, he's given the purple robe and the gold chain, and a proclamation is made concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. So now he's promoted again, but he's promoted on his terms. He's promoted in his lane. He's promoted his way. He hasn't sold himself out, defiled himself. He hasn't compromised himself. He hasn't run around trying to be like everybody else, thinking like everybody else, joining the group, the popular group, the social group. He hasn't run around worried about if I give somebody my best, they may not pay for it. He's not worried about all that as far as that's concerned. That's not his incentive. There's nothing wrong. He got rewarded, but his desire wasn't based on that. His desire was based on him being Daniel, the mind that Daniel is. The mind that Daniel is, right? So he's promoted again, right? So staying in your lane, knowing who you are, will promote you. Trying to be like everybody else, trying to fit in with everybody else, trying to act like everybody else, say what everybody else is saying, worried about what everybody else is doing, you'll be dead like everybody else. Because the only person who saved everybody in the first place was the person who wasn't like everyone else. Everyone else was going to die together. But hey, it's like the Titanic. We're all going to go down together. Right? Okay, last thing. Go to the next chapter, please. Now we're gonna get to Daniel. What does it say at the top? The plot against Daniel. So now guess what? So Daniel has his thing, his homies, his friends have their thing, and everybody's plotting. So guess what? The haters are back. Haters are back. So remember, right? Doesn't mean you're asking for them. You just understand them. You understand that they're just people who just don't know how to be what you are. They don't know themselves well enough to stand. They don't have a God that they can stand on, stand with, stand in front, stand behind, stand under. They don't have the support. They don't know, right? So then they're trying to figure out how they can move you out the way, because that's the only way they can see themselves up. Daniel's not even around half the time. You don't even see him half the time. And every time he's coming in to save the day, this was probably the first Superman, Batman, something. Right? So he says, okay, so he goes at the beginning and, they basically, I guess, having a little soiree or whatever. And then in verse 3, it says, Daniel distinguished himself above. Daniel, because he wouldn't defile himself, because he stood on his square, because he knew who he was, all these different things. He distinguished himself. He consistently distinguishes himself above all of not only his peers, but all of the officials, all these things. He continuously rises, right? And it says, and because of excellent spirit was in him, and the king gave thought to setting him over the whole realm. So now he's getting ready to get promoted again. And Daniel ain't sold his soul. Daniel ain't robbed nobody, stole anything. He hasn't hated on anybody, backstabbed anybody, not sitting around gossiping, not sitting around like, yeah, that dude, he ain't, I don't even know why. He ain't doing that. Yeah, girl, because it's you. If it was me, I wouldn't. He ain't doing that. And he's steadily either saving the day, saving the world, saving society, saving the city, saving people, and getting promoted, promoting his friends. And then his friends are getting off. The people, it seems like the people who serve in this one thing seem to be getting the same results. And the people who aren't seem to be doing the same thing over and over, getting the same results. So the governors and the satraps sought to find some charge against Daniel. Now they're looking for something to get him in trouble concerning the kingdom, something he's doing with his business. So now people start, well, what can I do to hate on his business? I'm not going to give it any reviews. I'm gonna give it all bad reviews. I'm gonna say it costs too much. I'm gonna say why we got to pay for that, or I'm gonna, whatever people do, right? And he said, so they were trying to find some way to disparage his business or his kingdom, what he was doing for the kingdom. And they said, but they could. So the governors they sought to find a charge against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find no charge or fault because he was faithful. But he wasn't. Who was he faithful to? Anyone? Who was he faithful to?
Himself, his idea, his dream.
Essentially, himself and his God, which are basically one. He was faithful to himself, his God, which is one. Yourself and your God are one. Whatever you line yourself up to be, that's what you're going to get. Right? But they could find no charge because he was faithful. He wasn't faithful to them. It's hard to have customer service. Customers change constantly. They change constantly. If you are faithful to yourself, you're always going to give the best customer service because the customer first is you. When you're happy, when you love dancing and you open up a dance studio, how could they not get that same joy? When you love a sport and now you're coaching it, how could they not get that same joy? Right? So when they look at you, they'll find you faithful. Nor was there any fault found in him. Then the men said, we shall not find any charge against this dude. We know we can't do it unless we find it against him concerning the law of his God. So they went out, and just like they did against the boys, they had said, we're gonna tell the king to write this decree that no one should be, worshipped at this time. I'm just kind of paraphrasing to move on in that next sentence. And no one should be worshipped except you. And if anybody is worshiping and, anyone else but you, then he should be in trouble. Go ahead.
Okay, I put in the chat, Daniel's lie irritated their demons.
Well, knowledge always irritates ignorance. Anytime you wake somebody up from being asleep, it's a lot of times it's not the best idea. And a lot of times when somebody's sleep real hard, when they're real ignorant, they just get upset when you wake them up. Right? It's just truth always hurts to people who are not interested. Right? So they said, okay, so they said, look, put this decree in writing that anybody who's worshiping something during this time and it's not you should be in trouble. So they decided that they were going to do that. So then now the next one, it says, now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, when he knew what was happening, he went home and in his upper room with his windows open so he had his windows open. He wasn't even sitting there hiding. He had his windows open and he went down on his knees 3 times that day and prayed and gave thanks before his God, as was his custom since early days. Now, what is important about that paragraph right there? There's something there I want everyone to see.
Daniel was consistent.
With what?
His God, his worship, with himself.
And when? In the paragraph, when?
He never wavered. He never changed.
Yeah. But what does it say at the end of the paragraph?
At the beginning.
As was his custom since the early days. So when they brought people and all these kids, the best of the best at the very beginning, the all-star team, he was doing this then. When he came out and he was on top, right? And they said, we found no one like him. He was doing this then. When he came out at the end and they said he was 10 times and him and his friends were 10 times better, he was doing this then. This was his custom. This was his custom since his early days. Why do you think his God saved him? Why do you think he said, I'm not defiling myself? He already had a standard. He already knew who he was, what he was, how he rolled. He knew. Everybody else just comes and figures out who they want to be. But then the king will start having you worshiping wood. And if you don't know who you are, you don't know that's a bad idea. Or you don't know this wood ain't going to talk back. Right? So I'm saying, I have to say, getting to this point, the reason he was able to get to this point is because of this paragraph. He said he did as what was custom. This is what he's been doing since his early days. And he did it 3 times a day. If you pray 3 times a day to anything damn near, you're gonna have it's when you are talking to something 3 times separately in a day, that's a relationship. And he's had this relationship since his early days, but it goes to show you what he was, why he was, how he became what he was. Because he knew who his God was. That's why he said, I'm not defiling myself. His friends obviously have the same one. That's why they said, my God will save me. And even if it don't, I'm not doing that. What you're looking at now at the end is why we got to this point. Because he had a relationship. He spent time with it, right? So then these men, right? These men assembled and found Daniel praying. Okay, key word in that sentence. These men assembled and found Daniel praying. In that little group. These men assembled and found Daniel praying. What's the key word in that little sentence? These men assembled and found Daniel praying. There's one word in there.
Praying.
Nope.
Alyssa put in the chat assembled.
Nope.
Found.
Found. Do you know what that word? Do you know what another word? Do you know there's another word? And we wrote this, we talked about this before. Discover. What does that word mean?
To unveil, like unveil.
Yeah, so it meant informant. You were discovering something. You already knew something existed. So you discovered it. You took the cloak off. You didn't find it like you didn't know it existed. You knew it existed. You discovered it. It means informant. That's what the word originally meant, informant. To tell something you already know. They found Daniel. They didn't find him like that. They discovered him. They knew what he was going to do. That's why they set the rule up the way they did, to catch him. So they said, hey, look, come on, man, we about to go get him because we know what he's going to do. He's been doing this since his early days. His windows are open. We've seen him do it. So we all going to get him. We all going to see it so that there's witnesses. And so they found him. They discovered him. They informed on him. They told him. They knew what he was going to do. They weren't surprised. They didn't find him like they ran into it and they looked up. No, they set him up. Praying, and they said, found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. They keep telling you whose God is whose. They keep telling you there's a difference, right? And said, then they went before the king and they basically told, hey, king, you said if you can't, if people do this, there's going to be a problem. There's going to be trouble. He said, yeah, you're right. And he said, okay, well, shouldn't he be cast into the den of lions? So basically, when they said you can't worship anybody during these 30 days, and if you do, you'll be cast into the lion's den, Daniel said, oh man, that's too bad. Anyway, I'm about to go up here and do what I do with his windows open. So they gathered together and found him. Found him, right? And the king answered, said, this thing is true to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which does not alter. It's true. So they answered and said, okay, king, well, Daniel, who was one of the captives of Judah, does not show due regard for you, O king, or the decree that you have signed, right? But makes his petition 3 times a day. So they knew how many times he did it. So did they find him? Did they just show up and oops, here he is? No. No, they knew what he did. They knew. They set him up. They knew what he did. And what did he say? And what did it say? The king, when he heard these words, was greatly displeased with himself. Not with Daniel, with himself. Because he knew he gave an oath to these heathens, essentially, and he knew they wanted blood and he had to honor it. Because they tricked him. So the king that you're going along to get along with, now he gets tricked by somebody else who doesn't like you, and now what? Now you're getting set up. Now the person you made an alliance or allegiance with at work, talking about so-and-so, yeah, now they made an allegiance with your boss, and now they get the promotion and you don't. Like all these things humanity does to try to maneuver itself into things and out of things, it blows up every time. Because there's always somebody more cunning, deceiving, haterish, than you. And you think you got it all the way locked down, and they go, you got somebody better. Right? Because this is what the law of man, when you're talking about the law, this is kind of part of it. The law of man and the law of God are different, even though God and man are one, but they don't live the same. They don't have to, because man has free will. So this is what the law of man ends up looking like, a lot like this, right? When people are bribing politicians, when people are doing this and doing that and maneuvering himself into this and maneuvering himself, this is what it looks like. So then they said, okay, well, he was just pleased with himself because he knew what he had to do. And they approached the king and they said, it's the law, it can't be changed. So the king gave the command, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. But the king spoke, saying to Daniel, your God whom you serve continually, he will deliver you. So now even the king knows Daniel. The king is like, okay, yeah, I got tricked, but I know this for sure now. But the king spoke, saying to Daniel, your God, not my God, your God, the one you have, whom you serve continually, not serve continually, he will deliver you. Then a stone was brought and laid over the mouth of the den, and it was sealed so that nothing could be changed. So nothing concerning Daniel could be changed. The stone was placed over there, so he couldn't run out, couldn't get out. It was him and the lions, that's it. What do lions represent?
Enemies.
Yeah, on a bigger scale.
Death?
Smaller scale. In the middle. Enemies, death, in the middle.
I can't put the most powerful animal.
Circumstances. You're up against it. You got a situation now. When you go in there, it could be a raccoon and it's still going to be a problem. You have to do something with it. You got lions, you got a real problem. It's a circumstance. They represent a circumstance. Well, now you're in here through no means of your own. You didn't do anything wrong, so to speak. You just say, I'm not defiling myself. I'm staying true to my thing. Now you got people who hated on your truth to your God, right? Because their God is, oh, shoot, if I can do this to this person, then I can get ahead. And if I can do this, I can get ahead, and things like that.
Kilo put in the chat obstacles.
Right? There's circumstances. There are things that you are faced with that you have to figure out. This don't look good. Right? This don't look good. So now you're in here, and they put the stone on so that no outside person, because they believe in humanity. They don't believe in that God. They don't believe in a God that can actually save you from humanity. So if they roll this stone over, there's no human to help you. So now it's you and this obstacle. It's you and this obstacle. And if you don't have a God that can supersede humanity or physical form, you're in trouble. In my best English, you in trouble. Right? So they roll the thing over. So then it says, okay, then Daniel says what to the king? O king, live forever. My God. So then, no. Then he said, then he said, so now the king went into his palace. They rolled the stone. Then the king went to his palace and spent the night. And the musicians were brought, no musicians were brought. He couldn't sleep. And the king arose early in the morning and went into haste to see the den of the lions. Because now people want to say, well, shoot, let me see what happened. And when he came to the den, he cried out with a voice, because he's hoping Daniel's alive. He believes it's possible, but he's really feeling bad for himself because he knows he got tricked and conned. And so he's like, for his own sake, he's like, please be okay. And the king spoke, saying to Daniel, servant of, now we got what? Now we got the living God. Now we got a living. And it says, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions, from the circumstances of poor health, from the circumstances of being unemployed, from the circumstances of wanting to make more money, from the circumstances, from things in life that you feel kind of like obstacles, like Akila said, from the things in life that you feel you can't overcome, that are in your way, that you feel you have no human earthly way to get through, right? That's what they all believe in. That's why when they thought they rolled that stone, it was a wrap. Go ahead. Right? They thought it was a wrap when he rolled that stone because there's no way to get out. And he said, is the God you continually serve, the living God that you continually serve, has it been able to help you? And Daniel said something. Just the fact that Daniel said something, that's it. The fact that he's still alive, that's it. That's game over already. That proved the answer already. As soon as he said something, it was over. He said, "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, so they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him." Who is him? Him is his God. He was found innocent before his God, before the thing he continually worshiped. And he said, because I was found innocent before God. And also, O king, I have done nothing wrong before you. So the king was exceedingly glad and commanded that they should take Daniel up and out of the den. And Daniel was taken out, and no injury whatsoever, was found on him, because he believed in his God. And then the people, basically the next sentence, and I'll skip it because we got to get moving. But the next sentence after that is, after that, they basically took the people who hated on them, took their family, their children, everybody, threw them in the den, and they were all dead before they hit the ground. So when obstacles, like Kilo said, when obstacle, who?
Kilo set up.
Oh, Kilo. Okay. When an obstacles come, and you have a God you continually serve, and you know who and what that is, then what did it say? What did the fire say? When they were put in the fire, what happened? No hair was singed, nothing was burnt, nothing was lost, anything. When they're in this thing here, when Daniel's in this thing here, nothing was lost. He wasn't hurt, not one hair on his head. Walked up out of there. And the king said, basically the God you continuously serve, was it able to save you? That's a question you have to ask yourself. That's I could go on and on because we don't have enough time. It goes by so fast. I go on and on. But the point is the God that you serve, can it save you? Is the thing you're worshiping, is the bills that you can't pay that you're worshiping, is that going to save you? Is poor health that you're worshiping going to say that you keep talking all the time, that you tell everybody as soon as you meet them, that you gotta let everybody know that it's hard out here. You gotta let everybody, you're worshiping it. You spending all your time with it, talking about it, thinking about it. You got the best relationship with it. You continuously serve and been serving it since your early days. We've been trained and conditioned to do that, right? But we're serving things that can't help us: bronze, silver, wood, stone, cups, gold, bronze. You see people serving everything. People are serving problems, bills, health, relations. They're worshiping all these things that can't talk back, that don't have eyes, that don't have ears. And you have to find the thing that does. We're out here doing a whole bunch of other stuff, right? And we get in situations, circumstances that we can't help ourselves into or out of because of it. And so we're talking about the laws of man and the laws of God, so we'll talk about that. So real quick, got about 10 minutes, and then because I want to just kind of address that really quick. I want you to understand in the book this is just taking this and being able to apply it to your life. We're not talking about whether the story is true. We're not talking about the religious connotations. We're not talking about that. We're simply taking the story and taking the truth of the story to be able to do it. But the last thing I'll say to you is this real quick on that story, is that the lions didn't eat Daniel. There was nothing to eat. There was nothing to eat. The thing he was put in the lion's den for, he was not. So the lions didn't eat him because he was not their meal. The people afterward were their meal, because those were the people who were what the lion should be eating. See, when people try to do things to you, it's because they hope that you are what they would like you to be, so that what can happen to you can happen. But if that's not who you are, they can try all they want, it won't work. You won't be appetizing to that circumstance. It's not you. It's what people have tried to put you in, but it's not you. So you'll always rise out. You'll always rise out. But you have to know who you are to do that. Right? So when we're talking about, in this book, you'll see two words. You'll see Lord, all caps, and then you'll see Lord, lowercase. You'll see this word too. God. Lord God, same. Lord, all caps, when it's talking about it in the book, it's talking, this, another word for this is law. It's law. It's the law of mind. The law of mind that says, as a man thinketh, as a mind thinketh, so is it. According to your faith, according to your expectation, be it unto you. The law is what Daniel understood. That is what he understood. So it allowed him to be loyal. It's like, okay, I understand the law, right? When you have a law, you have peace. No justice, no peace, right? When you're on the wrong side of the law, you have no peace. When you're on the right side of the law, you with justice, you have peace, right? So this means the law. It's the law of mind. It's telling you that as you believe yourself to be, so are you. According to your expectation, your assumption of being, whatever you believe in yourself to be, that is who you are. So it's the law of I am. It's the law of awareness. I am is present tense, first person awareness. So we say I am sick. You're saying I am is present tense, first person aware. I am aware of being sick. I am is aware of being sick. My consciousness is aware of being this. Therefore, I am this. That's the law. Let's talk. The Lord in all caps is talking about the law. Lord under lowercase God, right? This is talking about you're just your awareness. So when it says the Lord caps God, it's saying the Lord, it's saying the law of I am, the law of awareness. That's what it's saying, the law of awareness. There's a law to your awareness. Awareness is just consciousness. And then the law is whatever you're conscious of being, that is what you will live and express and experience. That is what is going on in your world. Your physical world is a reflection of the law. It's saying that you are aware of being, and whatever your physical world is, that is what you're aware of being. The law is I am. It's consciousness. Whatever it's saying, whatever you consciously believe yourself to be, that is what you are. Right? I am is your consciousness. So you're constantly conditioning yourself by saying, I am this, I am that, I am this, I am that. Those are affirmations. Not because you're repeating them 50 times, but because you are the power. You are the declarer and the decreer that things come to pass. You are the author and finisher of your faith. That's what the book is trying to tell you. It's wrapped up now. It's been gift wrapped into religion and things like that. But that's not what it's saying. That's what people are saying it's saying. That's not what it's saying. There's a difference. This is not denominational. This is not sexist, racist. This is the truth is the Lord God is the law. The Lord in all caps means law. It's the law of awareness. There's a law that governs your awareness. And the law says, whatever I'm aware of being, that is what I'm going to physically express, experience. If I want to change my expression, what's going out, or change what I'm experiencing, coming back, I have to change what I am, what I attach to I am. I have to recondition my I am to something else. I am not, that's why it says, let the weak say, I am strong. Let the poor say, I am rich. You have to change your consciousness in order to have a different expression and experience. So the Lord, God in lowercase, it's talking about I am. That is the Lord, I am. It's your awareness. That's the governor, the ruler of your experience is the Lord, like the Lord of a land, right? The ruler of something, right? It's your consciousness, right? It is what you are aware of, right? And so you have to understand that whatever you are proclaiming yourself to be, doesn't have to be verbally. We're always affirming. We're always feeling ourselves to be. We're always believing ourselves to be. And that is what we are experiencing in the physical world. Our physical world is the final thing. It's the outcome. It's dead last. The physical world doesn't create anything. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't fix anything. It's only a canvas for the painter. It's only a stage for the actor. It's only the stadium for the gladiator or the athlete or the performer. It's only the thing for you to express yourself on. It's not creative. It's only expressive. Creation is all in the mind. That's why one of the first principles, right? Know thyself. But the other one is the universe is mental. All is mind. The universe is mental. All is mind. That's where creation lies. That's where all of so when Daniel was serving his God over and over and over continually since his early days, it was simply saying that I am aware. What it was saying was that I understand that I am. And then that's what I am. Now I understand that whatever I condition this to be is what I'm going to experience. I'm serving this law, the law of I am, the law. I'm serving the Lord, all caps. Right? What did it say? The God in heaven. They said it 3 or 4 times. Where is the kingdom of heaven? The kingdom of heaven is within you. That's what it says in this book. That's what this book is saying. It's not religious. We're not talking about that. I'm not here to separate people, and I'm not here to convert you into something under me. You don't have to. I'm telling you what the book is saying. The Lord is I am. It's the law, the understanding that whatever I condition myself to be, this is my consciousness, and whatever I condition it to be, I am. So when he's praying 3 times a day, he's conditioning I am. He's conditioning his awareness that this is what I am. Now, what do I want attached to it? Well, I am safe. He must have felt that way because he was there and walked out. What did the 3 guys say? I'm not doing that. My God who I serve will save me. They're aware of their relationship because they're saying, I can save myself. I can save myself because I'm aware of safety. I'm aware of health. I'm aware of wealth. I can do this for myself. The power is within me to do it. But he spent 3 times a day doing it. Becoming aware, just sitting down and becoming aware of himself and mastering the law that whatever I believe myself to be, that is what I can experience physically. The world is here for me to use as my plate, as my stage, as my template, as my thing. That's what it's for. It doesn't create anything. It's only here for me to use to create. The canvas doesn't make anything. The paint doesn't make anything. Those things are used by the living God. You use the paint and the canvas to paint. The paint doesn't paint. The canvas doesn't do anything. That's you. If you can understand that, you can be like those 3 guys and Daniel. Those are just minds. They're not actual men. They're just minds. But they're just given a name. You're just a mind. You're just giving a name. There's no difference. There's no difference between you and them. The only difference is in whether you're going to do it or not. Whether you can become like-minded. Whether you can become like-minded. That is the only difference between you and them. It's not reality. It's not gender. It's not color. It's not, this was way back in the day, so it doesn't count anymore. No, this is like mind. This is right now. This is you right now. So every day, that is what saved Daniel. That is what saved his friends. That's what promoted Daniel. That's what promoted his friends. They got promoted all the time. They weren't kissing anybody's butt. They weren't hobnobbing at all the gigs. They weren't on social media 58,000 times, liking everybody's posts, seeing what everybody else is doing, getting on 58,000 lives. They weren't out there they weren't trying to get in everyone's good graces to get what they wanted, is my point. Because they know they didn't need to do that. But they could carry themselves in a way where they could save other people's lives. They could carry themselves in a way and say, yeah, King, you can keep the stuff to yourself. You don't move me with your stuff. I can get my own stuff. I already know who I am. I don't have to defile myself. I don't have to subjugate myself or compromise myself in order to fit in. Now I'm going to fit in with the people who are going to die. We all going to die now because none of them could help themselves or help each other when they got into some funk. When the king came, the same king who gave you a gold and a purple robe is the same one who's going to slice your head off the next day. Because you ain't got an answer for them, right? Or your boss, or your friends, or just society in the world. These things were happening in society. We have society. All of these things are happening today. They're the same things. Why do you think people fight so hard to be Republicans or Democrats? Why do you think people fight so hard to be this or that? Say I live here or there. I go into this school or that school. Everybody's trying to line themselves up with whatever they think is victory. But victory changes, boy, more than a baby's diaper. It changes all the time. Allegiances, alliances, what's in, what's not, what's cool, what's not, who's cool, who's not. Everything changes so fast, man, you'd be schizophrenic to keep up. You'd be bipolar, you'd be all kind of things trying to keep up. Changing your identity every 5 seconds, you couldn't keep up with what's cool and what's in and what's going to save you and things like that. Daniel and them didn't do that. They just said, man, I'm staying in my lane. I know who that is to me. And that is what this book is telling you. It's telling you that when you serve this, when you understand that I am just consciousness, that's all I am, just consciousness. That's it. Like Play-Doh, just consciousness. Now I can form myself into anything I want by saying I am this, whatever I attach on the other side of I am. I now can become that. That's my power. Right? Did you have something you want to do?
Well, no, Marcus put in the chat, I'm selling Pampers and Huggies.
Man, you know, that's you. You probably could have been rich during the pandemic. Man, they're running out of everything and everything was high. Right? So that is what Daniel, you know, I didn't get to go through all of it, but that's enough of it. But my point is several. Number one is when you're looking at something, I want all of us to learn how to break something down, how to really take something, some information, and look at all the details in it. Stop skipping over it, skimming it, reading so fast. Read through it several times. Ask yourself questions when you're listening, or when you're reading, or when you're learning. Ask yourself questions. Figure out if it applies. How can it apply? Is there some way you can put it in context today that will give it more meaning or better meaning? Right? What happened to these people? When you're reading, say, what happened? Why did it happen? When did it happen? Who started where? When did they move? How did they move? Why did they not move? Start asking yourself something so you can get better understanding of the information that you are consuming every day, whether it's in reading, whether it's listening to your friends, having conversations, watching TV, or whatever else it is. We make so many assumptions, we let things go over our head, one ear out the other, and our whole life is based on information. It's based on what you know. When they say it's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, Daniel knew somebody better than the other people knew. But Daniel was talking about I am. That's why he kept saying the God in heaven. That's who he's talking about. What did Moses say? Well, let my people go to the Pharaoh. And he said, well, God, who am I going to tell him? He said, tell him I am sent you. I am that I am. That is my name unto all generations. Well, I am, that's you. That's you, first person. You're saying it every day, all the time, whether it's verbally or you're thinking it. You're saying it constantly. You're declaring yourself to be something. You have to wake up and realize what you're saying, who you're talking about. You're talking about, that's you. That's why Daniel and them said, man, we're not going to bow down to some wood. To some wood. We're going to put some wood now. I'm going from this cat who's saving everybody's life to some wood now. I'm about to pray to some wood. Come on, man, stop the cat. This is too much. I'm not about to do that. Right? So, but you have to spend time with that to know it. So many of us want things in life and we defile ourselves because we don't know that God. We don't know our I am. We're not aware of it. We're not conscious of it. We don't have a relationship with it. So now we got to have a relationship with the King. Your friend who got a hookup at the job, if they can just get you a discount over here, and if you stay, hey, my boss surely gonna promote me because I've been there for 6 years and I work overtime every day. I didn't even see my kids in 3 years. We do all kind of stuff trying to get favor, trying to get the inside track, trying to get all these different things, and don't realize, like, man, you're gonna end up having to defile yourself. You're gonna end up having to keep sacrificing your morals, your desires, everything, because you feel like that's the only way to go. But it is if you don't know who you are. It is, you're right. If you don't know who you are, then you better be the best socialite you can find. You better have all the hookups. You better do whatever you can. But then the problem with that is you sacrifice who you are. Then you end up being something you don't know who you are. And then they change it on you. And now you really messed up because you don't even know what that is. You don't know who you are, what you are, where you are. Right? So it is important to slow down when you're reading something and learn how to break things down. Like I said before at the very beginning, I have a class about that I teach called basically Study or Details. And it's talking about learning how to break things down and sitting with people. And you'd be amazed how much, I give people an article, you'd be amazed how much they miss. I'm like, did you see that? Did you read it? But people aren't really, but it's the same thing in life. They're not paying attention to the detail. They miss so much information. They don't know what words really mean. They don't even ask. And so they're just glossing over it and they want their life to be pristine and they miss 1,000 details. They want their life to be up here and their thinking is down here. They want to be promoted and their skills are down here. They always want something on the outside to be better or different than the inside. So we have to understand that I am, that God he was talking about, that his friends were talking about, was I am. The understanding of that I am whatever I think I am. And so I better figure out, that's the power that I have. So I got to figure out who I want that to be and not defile that for somebody else's stuff, for somebody else's great ideas, for somebody else's golden images and everything else. Because you'll look up, boy, and you'll have your head cut off like everybody else who's going to die, right? Because they didn't know, they didn't have anything within them that could save. You have the power within you to save, prosper, protect, advise, advance, instruct, get ahead, come from behind. You have everything in you, but you have to become conditioned with that. You got to start spending some time with it like Daniel did, right? You have to do that. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting here maybe hearing about it, possibly seeing somebody else doing it, but you not. You'll be a spectator in your own life. You'll be an extra in your own play. That ain't gonna work, right? That ain't gonna work. So anyway, time went by fast. I didn't even get to probably about 75% of it, but hopefully it's enough for you guys to understand some things. You know, hopefully it's enough for you guys to understand some things. It always goes by fast, but you know, move on to some other things. Questions?
Sammy?
I know I'm only here for, I mean, I wish I was here earlier. I have to work on Saturdays, but like, it's just like the information is like so spot on with like, you know, like when we go to everybody, I mean, I don't know. I know I only been here for 5 minutes. I'm talking, but my point is like, we all go to a lot of mindset teachers and the resonance of the connect, like the things that you're saying just fit like a Rubik's Cube with other people I just admire and are mentors. And I don't know, like feedback, something that is like, it's such a interesting way to look at the I am, because that's something that is, if you're studying mindset, you have to understand. And it's like, you just have a way of piercing through a lot of things that are cloudy. That's how I find you. I you know, like that is like, I'm here for like 10 minutes. I'm like, I just learned something. I'm writing notes. I'm almost like really piercing in a good way. Like, you know, taking something that can be confusing and resonating through a difficult water, if you know what I mean. Like you're navigating for us. And I think that's, you know, if I'm here for half an hour because I'm working or an hour, it's like it's amazing. I don't know how you're packing so much information into a short period of time, but it's amazing. So just, I got something from the, you know, like I thought I would stop by and be like, okay, I'm not, you know, like I'll catch the end and I'm like, wow, I just wrote notes. And so I just want you to know like that I am is like, just, I've been thinking about going back to some writing that I usually do. And now because of you and because of this, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing that today. Okay. Thank you. So I just wanted to let you know, I am work, you know, doing the I am work works. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for it. We definitely appreciate it. It's our honor and pleasure, man. It's just to get everybody the truth. This is not religious. It's not denominational. This is not to divide anybody or tell you got to sign up to this or sign up to that or start wearing this or drinking that or eating this or, you know, all the other stuff. I mean, but, you know, I'd be laughing, but I mean, but we do it, you know, in humanity, look around, we do it because we're all trying to find the same thing that a lot of those people are trying to find. We got gods of all kinds of bronze and stones. We got gods of problems, gods of debt, gods of health. We got gods of unemployment. We got gods of traffic. We can make everything into something bigger than us. And we're literally just walking around like this all the time. You know what I mean? And so it's our pleasure, you know, and like you said, you know, when this is something that you do, you have to understand the I am. You have to understand like who you really are, because that's the foundation of the building. That's everything. And we're constantly saying I am something, and we don't realize who we are, so we don't realize how powerful we are. So we're saying I am broke, I am sick, I am tired, I'm always so tired, I am this, we're constantly announcing the most powerful thing on the earth. That's us. How could it not be us if it's in us? When we say I'm sick, do we look at someone else? No, because the thing we're saying we're possessing, we're saying we are, right? So when we say I am, the thing that we're possessing, that's because it's who we are. That's who we truly are. The sick comes and goes, right? So it's that, but that won't even come if you know. If you know who you are, you can, man, you can. So I could go on and on, but thank you and everything else. Any other questions?
Akia put in the chat, know yourself and trust in your inner guidance is the key. I am.
Yes, absolutely correct. That's what Daniel did. That's what all his friends did. That's what they did. They said, I'm not going to eat that. I'm not going to be bound to this. I'm not going to stop, praying to my I am. I'm not going to stop my relationship just because you got some new bird you want to put in the sky with some gold paint on it. I'm not about to do that. Like, no, right? I have a relationship. I've been doing this and I'm going to keep doing it because I know who I am, right? Okay. All right. Lastly, anything else on?
No.
Okay. Lastly, I've opened up some classes. For anybody interested, I've opened up some classes that are going to start in about 2 weeks. I've opened up 3 classes that I teach. One is it'll be on the website and stuff like that, and you can look it up. They start in about 2 weeks. One of them is the business of being you, and essentially this class is about developing the self-concept and understanding that you are your first business, that you are your first economy, that you are your first immunity, that you are your first everything. And as you learn to know yourself better, as you learn to understand how to be self-governing, self-guiding, self-directing, self-aware, self-disciplined, all those different things, as you learn to know yourself, have a better relationship, a better understanding, you will be able to exhibit and to use that power, that I am, your awareness, right? And to realize that you are your first business, right? You are not your body, right? You are a thing, and you are your I am, and you have a body that you govern, and then so your life is your first business, right? So it's going according to who you are. So you have to know who you are in order to get that business to work and things like that. So that's what this class is about. It's 6 weeks. It is the dates and everything like that, or be on the website. You can look. All of these are 6 weeks. So it's the business of being you. The second one is parenting, the verb. There's a lot of parents that I work with and things like that. And I tell kids that I work with all the time, whether it's basketball training or whether it's mind stuff as well, you have to give your parents a break. There is no parenting university. There is no parenting certification. There is no parenting college. There is no whatever else it is. So a lot of parenting is intuition, desperation, a whole lot of effort. It's just we're flying by the seat of our pants a lot of times, like emergency, like first responders. We're going from one need or response or desperation or whatever to the next. So this class that I teach is designed to give you tools as parents to be able to not only parent the way you want. It's not to tell you how to parent, but to provide you support, not only as a parent, but as a person, because we're not just parents, we're also people. Before we were parents, we were people. And a lot of times our person dies in martyrdom to parenting, and it doesn't work that way. We think it does. We mean well. I'll do anything for my kid, but not if you don't do anything for you. It ain't going to last long. And so understanding that, providing tools for the parents, providing tools and concepts and ideas and things like that to support them. And also to remember that you're a person. And so talking about your relationship with your kids and how to do certain things or talk about certain things or whatever. So that's parenting the verb, the actual act of parenting, right? Last one is concepts. And that class, concepts, is basically taking, kind of like we did today, taking bits of information and learning how to apply it to life. Whether it's an aphorism like the early bird gets the worm. Well, or whether it's like, if you don't want to be mad at God, don't choose the wrong one. If you don't want to, taking certain concepts and ideas and learning how to make them our own. So in the class, we'll be creating our own. You'll be creating some own concepts. Like, give me something that you want to live by. Give me something, and just getting people to be more mindful and more skillful and wise with their awareness and their application of things. And so concepts is really just about taking certain philosophies and ideas and understandings and making them our own to be able to apply them personally in our own life. So all 3 of these are will be starting in about first week of May, maybe the 7th, 8th or something like that. They're all 6 weeks long. They're all 2 days a week for 3, so an hour and a half each. You will have homework in there. You will maybe have, depending on the class you're in, you will have books to read, depending on the class you're in. This is intense for real stuff. This is if you want that action and you really want to do your thing, this is what it's for. It's 6 people. I've limited it to 6 people a class because, I can't teach everybody at the same time. These classes are good because I'm talking general. I'm not honing on everybody's specific needs or wants, or I'm not talking about just a specific topic. These classes are specific topics, and I'm dealing it with 6 people, because at max, because I want to be able to get to everyone, hear everyone, talk to everyone. And by the end of 6 weeks, everyone will be changed in whatever class they're in. Everyone will come out with some tools and some understanding about what they're doing and who the doer is. Right. So that stuff is on the mental.academy website.
I put everything in the chat.
Okay, so everything's in the chat and on the website and everything like that. Like I said, I'm capping it at 6, so it will go fast. So sign up if you're interested, but that's what those classes are for. Right. So thank you all. If there's anything else, let me know. If not, you guys all have a wonderful weekend. Have fun. You may see me on Instagram Live. I pop up here and there. I'm more random than like leap year. Like I just pop up. Like you just be like, wait a minute, and I'm just there, just talking to myself for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then people will show up. So I just pop up. So if you see me, roll through and say what's up. But it's all good. And if there's nothing else, you guys have a wonderful weekend. Thank you all for coming, and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you guys. And Tammy sees you on IG Live.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's it.
Have a great weekend, guys. Bye-bye.
Peace.